welcome everybody to the Aurora Esports Season 6 auction draft. Every season starts is with a good auction, and we got 14 captains here ready to make their team for the next 8 to 12 weeks, maybe? I don't know how long the span of the season is, but they're going to make some teams, they're going to make some friends, they're going to make some enemies, and they're going to have a good time. And we're here to cast all of this at auction draft action. One of your casters, Ward. Joined alongside me is Neptune, a fellow caster, Paninii, a fellow caster, and I gotta give a massive shout out to HV Sec behind the scenes, making everything with the captains to the production look extraordinarily smooth and pristine. But we're gonna start off with Neptune. How are you feeling about this draft today?
Doing pretty good. I'm excited to see how it goes. I've been anticipating this day to come. I've been really hyped for it. I just want to find out what team I'm going to be on, what teams everyone's going to be on, looking out for the season. I'm really excited to see like how these auctions will go, especially since like the duo's been removed. Grr, duos, of course, right?
Hey, duos.
Grr.
Grr.
Other stuff that we're seeing like this season, that I've been changed actually is some new map rotations, which I'm excited for. Like being able to just take it anywhere, like they did in Dallas. I think is gonna be like really fun and nice, and I think especially for certain teams, that's gonna help them a lot to play to their strengths.
Yeah. And Panini, talk to me a bit about these admin changes. I know you're robbed of being an admin. We wanted you there,
No,
but as
no, it was a
somebody,
vote.
yeah, that's true, that's true. But as somebody who is, in my opinion, very experienced, at least on the production side of things, and been in the league for a while, what do you think about these new admin changes?
I gotta admit, have not been keeping up with it very much. I've been trying to set up this draft stuff for a while, so it's like I know they dropped a big thing earlier today, and I haven't really gotten a chance to read through all of it. I've been sleeping.
Yeah, and just so you know, these include the new map rotation that's sort of based off of the DreamHack Dallas, the qualifiers for globals. The slight increase in SR. Now, this may be a bit confusing because the SR's cap has been lower than it's ever been before, but it's based off of the number of players signed up, their average SR, compared to what the SR cap is. Last season, it was 20 SR under at the SR cap. This season, it's only like 3 to 5 SR under. It's a little bit easier for captains to invest in those higher SR players, if that makes sense. And then removing duos, we're so happy. We're so back, guys.
Duos. I mean, I feel like just kind of thinking about all the duos last season, just going into this next season, not having those duos is just, it does look like the rosters people are going to be able to get will be a lot more fair for sure.
Yeah, this is the first season in the past 3 seasons. This is gonna be the first one without a duo winning the championship.
Yep.
Factually.
And I think that duos were so like feast or famine, you know? Like
Yeah.
I don't think it's a like I don't know. It was a weird thing. There's a lot of duos being made. There's a couple of rules around duos, and then I'm really glad we just decided to scrap it at the end of the day because it was getting so confusing and duos were just winning championships.
Yeah. Especially like you just get like a random duo just go for like 200k less than they probably should have, and then that team just has that much more budget to go into building everything.
Yep.
Another thing I don't think we've mentioned before is the 7th player budget changes.
I love the lore behind that. Sorry, you go, Panini.
No, I was just gonna say the main thing is I think in previous seasons you're gonna have a couple of teams that have to get a 7th player, and that kind of causes issues with the budget because then you don't have your budget would be stretched a little bit thinner between the rest of your teams, and having another player means that you have to get the play time, so you have to rotate these different lineups, so it is a little bit harder to include a 7th player. So you'll usually get a little budget increase to kind of compensate for that. This season, I think, is by far the biggest budget increase it's been. I think captains that draft a 7th player have 100k extra to spend. It is kind of denoted on this graphic right now. The ones that do not have a 6th player will have 2 lines on the very bottom of their sheet where their 7th player slot would be. The captains that have the full 7 slots open will be able to take a 7th player. So I think that is going to be really interesting because that is a lot of money. So all these players that the teams that do have a 7th player, it's going to be really interesting what they end up doing because 100k is a lot of money. So we'll see what they're able to cook with that.
Yep. And how that got set as like a 100K line, it actually started at like a 50K line, but no captain was like really biting on that 50K mark. So then they upped it to 75K, and eventually they had 6 captains agree for 100K. And I like the idea of setting the bar lower and then have
Yeah.
captains as a group decide, okay, what are we willing to do for a 7th player? And at the end of the day, I think a lot of the people who did go for a 7th player are the teams that probably are going to need that 7th player to make an all-around better team. So I'm really liking the decisions from the captains and the assertiveness from the captains to say, nah, 50K ain't enough. Give us some more, and we'll cook up a really good team.
Yeah. There's always going to be like that break point. So I think the way you do that is just start lower and then just work up until you get that break point where people will start to agree with it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. Now, I
1
think
minute late.
I think it's about time to. What'd you say?
1 minute late. Grr.
I know, for real. We're not the ones starting the draft. All the captains got to show up to start the draft. So if the captains are there, we can do stuff. The captains ain't there, it's Jover. But let's start talking about these captains. Talking about specifically the teams. Any team names and logos that stand out to you guys?
I gotta admit, I think these are some of the strongest logos I've seen in a while. Like across the board, I think they're all really good. All the team names and the logos. I have this not really a theory. It's just something I've noticed that I really appreciate is every season there's been either a purple team or a pink team, except for season 3 of Overwatch League. So a while back, I think this season we have 2 purple and pink teams. So that's really hype. I love the purple and pink teams.
I agree, and huge credit to the logo artists. I know a couple of them are still in the works, but that's gonna be Fruitles, MuffinLump. He's the captain, but he also worked on other teams' logos. Razmataz, Ver Verdi line. I'm sorry if I
Viridium?
mispronounced that.
No.
Yeah,
Veraldine.
Realdine. Yes.
For some, I heard Vera.
Bunny. And I know Yak, and then somebody named Lady Maggie. Big shout outs to them for making these team logos, because that is a very long process, and that does take a lot of work to make the logos look that good.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Oh, actually, I think they have already started. So let me jump back in over here.
Let's get it. Stop.
First player on the board is Poi. We'll see if they actually start the bidding up, but it's officially switched over. So now we have Poi going up first, bid up by this the Quantical Quails in Skycer. Poi, I think, is going to be... I was talking to Neptune a little bit before this. I think Poi is going to be one of the most expensive players in the draft. So it's going to be really interesting, the fact that he's out here first, how much he's going to go for.
Yeah, Poi, characteristic team leader and characteristic team carry. You put him on basically any role, he knows what to do, and he's somebody who will step up and basically tell your team, okay, we need to play here, we need to do this, we need to go for that. So I would not be surprised with somebody like Poi if we see upwards of, 300K, maybe even up to 400K here for the bids.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, just like the leadership qualities he brings to the table is going to be very important for any tournament, any match, especially in Aurora, where teams, might not have that communication to bring forward, right? So
I'm guessing they haven't started the bids. I imagine if Skycer gets Poi for 1K. People just don't want Poi this season. Interesting.
If Skycer gets Poi for 1K, I think they may win the league.
I think HV is doing some cooking behind the scenes right now.
Yeah, regardless, we can kind of go into other talks, like more stuff about our captains, what's it called? Captains or rookies. I think we are going to be going in here very shortly. Riddle added me with the R question mark, and I gave him back. So
yeah,
we actually probably going to see the bidding here.
Let me know, everyone in chat. Let me know if the audio levels are okay. I can adjust them a little bit. I've gotten word that my co-casters are a little bit louder or a little bit quieter than me. So
we're getting
I've
here.
updated it. I think it should be okay now. But if you want me to adjust anything, just let me know. So the fact that they DM'd R means they have not started bidding yet. So Skycer will not be able to get Poi like this, at least.
Dude, that's so sad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I wanted Poi for 1K. If I was a captain, I'd be really happy with Poi for 1K.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't. I think that's an overpay.
Speaking of Poi, what are some other veterans we're excited to see returning this year.
I mean, Elko, I think. Oh, instantly goes up to 250. We've started 250 by Jack.
Started. Let's continue.
I love that from Jack. Like, I mean, you just gotta set a price line and you gotta set it high. So start it off with 250. Make
Up to
people raise
380?
280 from, is that?
That's a 380.
From Sonic.
That's about right. I was gonna say I think he's gonna go for over 4K. He's bidding himself up. I think that's a graphics thing. Someone else has bid him up, but I just didn't update correctly.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, this is a quick jump up here. I
There we
did
go.
not expect it to go so high this fast. I mean, some people I guess want to get out, but Booney now leading with a 435k bid.
Holy moly. Like I said, I think he's gonna be one of the more expensive players. I think this price is crazy. Like the fact that, let's think of a good example. Charbatron has 880. 440 is like half of her budget.
Yeah, and for somebody like Poi, if the draft plan is going to be like draft Poi as your carry, it can definitely be worth it. I'm a bit interested in why like Booney's trying to get into the mix, because I know Poi is a main tank.
I know
that Booney's definitely a main tank in here.
I was kind of
throwing in some money, but
yeah, like I agree.
Yeah.
Like I think Sonic Ronic and the Sydney Sea Dragons bidding up makes a lot of sense. I even think Charbotron on the Froggus makes a lot of sense, because both of those players are going to need a tank, and you can make the argument that Poi is the best tank like signed up right now. So
Wrecked Cactus in there too. Now.
Interesting. Wrecked Cactus is also one that's kind of surprising for me. I think that does actually kind of make sense with a lot of their things. But yeah, like again, looking at this like budget thing, it's Sonic Ronic with 840k already has 465k on the Poi.
Yeah, I think we crushed the expectations for Poi.
Yep.
Worth.
Is he gonna break 500k? Like I think last season he went for 450k. I think the budgets were a little bit higher.
No, last season budget's actually a bit lower.
Oh, they were.
Which is why.
So I guess this scales.
Yeah, so this is scaling, yes, but this is still a lot of money for somebody like Rex, Cactus, and Sonic. I can see why the 7-player teams aren't going into this, because even though they have the more money, if it gets up to a money threshold that gets you really, really uncomfortable, you have to drop back, because then you're going to be left with like a good player, a mid player, and then like you won't be able to control the last players you get. You know?
Yeah.
And I think this is going to go to Sonic. I mean, I'll see if Wrecked Cactus keeps pushing it up here, but Sonic's somebody who I think will pair very, very well with Poi.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like Sonic is playing DPS this season. Being able to draft that tank, not only like someone that like is as good of a tank as Poi, but has the comms, has the like team leadership. I feel like no one would be disappointed with this. Wrecked Cactus is actually trying to match Sonic Ronic here. Can I get a chat prediction? Do you think we're gonna go over 500k first for this, and second for like anybody in the draft at this point?
I don't think for this one in particular. Like you see them slowing down and really thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, they're either doing the calculations or you know whatever they be doing right now.
Yeah, I think the again it's starting to slow down, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is like short of 500k. But I think there are other players that I think also will go for as much as Poi, if not more. Not gonna say any names, but I know there's a couple of players. Maybe I think there's a couple of players that are also going to be very highly sought after, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them go for 500k.
Yeah, I mean, like we're seeing now, the only people that are really continuing this is just Red Cactus.
Oh, there it is. Wrecked Cactus. You know. It updates on the sheet there. Officially, Wrecked Cactus gets him.
And mathematically, that's like 60% of his budget, 67% of his budget,
something like that.
So I want to know what Wrecked Cactus has cooked up, because obviously, if you're drafting Poi for that much, you want him for his SR, and you probably want him on tank.
Yeah.
Wrecked Cactus is somebody who can really flex around. He's won a championship on support. He's won a championship on tank. This might be a season to do it on DPS, and Poi is a great player to do it behind.
Every season Wrecked Cactus has played DPS, he has not won. So who gets put up next? I believe this is going to be Sonic Ronic, I think, is the second person on here. So Sonic Ronic gets to put up his player. After barely missing out on Poi, I wonder what he's cooking now.
Yeah, for sure he's probably going to put up someone he wants, or just kind of skip his turn and hopefully just get his players for steals, you know?
There it
Especially, like,
is.
Oh,
There it is.
it's me.
Oh, so Neptune, what do you think about this? What do you think about this player?
Pretty mid.
Yeah.
Pretty terrible.
Maybe like 2K, 3K.
You know.
I feel like maybe 5K. I think maybe he can get along with 5K. We already see it up in the 420Ks.
Hey, as a Neptune drafter, somebody who got him for I think 424K, I'm very glad we got over that number because Neptune is an insanely valuable player. He was insanely valuable for my team. If it goes to, if this is the only player that goes to 500K, that's chill. You know.
Yeah.
I think that the performance last season kind of pushes it over the edge. Booney is doing a great job with these. I don't know if these are price checks here or if these are like full commitment
I
to
wouldn't
the
be
draft.
surprised if he goes after Neptune. I could see that. I think there are like certain players that like, especially on DPS, like getting a high SR DPS player makes a huge difference. And I think there's only, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Sonic Ronic, Wrecked Cactus are DPS captains. Yak is a DPS, Invictus is a DPS. I think that's it.
I mean, for me, it seems like
4?
with what we're seeing, like from like Poi, you know, like Sonic really just wants like that tank kind of spot filled. If not, you know, just have like that leadership and you know, that much vocal, right? So I'm not surprised to see that like, just see him commit, you know, that high.
There,
and Milo's just gonna try to bid him up here.
creeping into the action.
Yeah, Sonic Ronic, it seems like really wants to get a really high SR player early. I think that makes a lot of sense because based on how it's going so far, at least, I think those high SR GM players are going to be kind of like the core of these teams, and it's like you got to wait until you have your core before you know exactly what team you're going to build around it. So I think it does make sense to try to go after a high SR player just as early as possible, just to know if you can build around that player or if you have to kind of go to your backup plan and try to build around someone else.
Amazing insight. Totally agree with that. And bidding is slowing down here a bit, but Booney does come back in. So it looks
One
like we
more
have a
for
3-horse
500K.
race between Booney, Milo, and Sonic. 3 players who are lower SR captains. Who Milo has that 7th slot open, but Booney and Sonic don't. So we'll see if they break the 500K barrier here. Milo has the most to spend, but again, more players to draft. And I think this really goes into how do you plan on using Neptune? Because amazing DPS, we saw his DPS last season, but available for tank this season at what in my opinion is a great price. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna be still as long as I can play, you know, my comfort characters. So
But yeah, we'll see. It has started to slow down. And there it goes. Officially, Neptune goes to Booney's team for 497. So we did not break 500K.
Neptune got robbed. Robbed, I say. Neptune, talk to me though. What do you think about being on the? I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that name, but Booney's team.
let me see if I can pronounce it. Actually, it's probably like, did he say it's like something?
You
It's-
gotta try to pronounce it for the stream.
Okay.
Shana
okay.
Beltier or something like that. Fedora Master, another GM player, makes sense. But it is the Booney's team is a platypus. If you did not know that already, if you don't know German by now,
Now
yeah,
we know. And then Fedora is also going up here next.
I think that this is Jack putting up Fedora as well.
yeah. I would not.
Put up by.
I think there are 12 players that signed up where their highest role was GM, and I would not be surprised to see those be the first 12 players drafted.
I would, because I think.
You think
at
there's gonna be a
some point in
couple
time-
slip through?
I think at some point in time the.
350K.
Actually, this is Tommy who puts. Oh no, I think
Oh,
that
it's
Tommy's the
bugging
person
out.
who raises up. Here.
Yeah, Jack bit one.
Yep.
There it is, and then Tommy for 350K.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like all these high GM players going for about 400K. I mean, that does make sense.
Oh, somebody we expected to be in there. MuffinLumps jumping into the fray
Yeah.
for Fedora Master.
Fedora Master with no context did post a video advertising Muffin's team. Yeah. So yeah, I know that Fedora Master is a big fan of at least the logo. So I think he's probably really excited to have Muffin starting to bid him up here.
I do like Muffin's logo a lot.
Yeah. It is the first. I don't know if we mentioned this on the stream yet. This is the first logo in Aurora Esports to have to be 3D. It is a 3D model.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
You should 3D print it, Panini.
Yeah, I should. I recently got this 3D printer, and I was asking Muffin. I was like, what file type is it? Can I convert it to 3D print it? Because like that would be so cool to get like you draft a team, you make a 3D logo, and then you get like a little tiny figurine for it. That'd be really hype.
And yeah,
As
that
right
would be
now,
really cool.
Fire's just kind of top bid right now. I wonder
Yeah.
if Muffin's gonna get back into the mix yet.
We're doing the mid bid moment right now.
These are the two I sort of expected to go for this. I think it's just like, when do you want to give up? And I see this passing about the 400k threshold before it
That
settles,
I could see that.
But
Maybe
yeah.
410, 412, something like that.
it just, I think it really just depends down to like the mind games. Like,
There it goes.
if you're trying to raise it, how far do you want to raise it?
Yeah. We do currently have Firestar in the lead, but I mean Muffin's been price checking it. It's starting to bug out here. Yeah, Muffin's been price checking it, so I wouldn't be surprised to see. I guess Muffin actually has the most recent one. I also wouldn't even be surprised to see it go to 386 to either of these teams.
I do think that is a kind of a steal for Fedora. I think
I agree.
he was on a I think a friend team last season, and
Yep.
I think that like, speak all you want about that team, I do not think it was like optimally designed to win the league. I think it was designed to have a fun time. They did amazing. Like, they did like really solid in playoffs too. Like,
Yeah.
much better than I expected. But I think that kind of lowers Fedora's draft stock, and people are starting to forget. This is like the best
There
tour
it
player in the
is.
league right here.
Not 386 to MuffinLumps and the Chipped Cuppa.
If I'm Muffin, I'm really happy about that.
I know.
Fedora's a great person to build a 7-man team around, and still has basically 600k to work out the rest of his pieces.
For that price, especially compared to some other GM players that were just put up, like I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
I think that's more of a bargain than the Neptune and
Like let's just compare MuffinLumps team and Booney's team. MuffinLumps has himself in Fedora Master. Booney has himself in Neptune, but not only because Muffin has that extra player slot, and because he got Fedora Master for 110k cheaper than Booney, MuffinLumps has 250 more budget to spend.
Oh, the design man.
AST design.
Now I don't know Mr.
First
AST
rookie.
Design that
I believe he
top
is
20? Top 20 tank.
That sounds right. He's from Madison, I believe. Plays on their varsity team. For the SR, like I think he did say he wanted to sign up as DPS. But the fact that you do have this peak, like top 500, you said top 10?
Top
20 tank.
Top 20 tank, like that's a big player you can build around. I'm not sure if he is willing to flex over to tank, but he did sign up, so I'm sure that's kind of something in the back of your mind. Even if you have lineups built with him on DPS, you do always have that option to put him on tank if you need to. But even regardless, like if you peak if you peak top 20 like on tank, you got to have really good mechanics and really good game sense. So I'm sure he's gonna go for a lot too. Very flexible.
I think that this is a very smart play by Riddle Dog here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Riddle wants AST or not.
He's bidding it up.
But either way, like if it goes onto Riddle's team, it's really, really good because Riddle is somebody who has the flexibility to play on tank.
That's true.
If he doesn't go to Riddle's team, he's bidding it up to the other two people who are really putting in money. That's going to be Tommy and Yak.
Yeah.
And again, if there's anybody to break the barrier that Neptune has set at 497k, it's going to be either AST or Elka.
Yeah, that's fair. Riddle's still bidding it up, and he's not even min bidding either. He is. I think Riddle actually wants AST design. Again, like you, I didn't even think about the flexibility. That could be really nice. Is have a couple of different lineups, gives you a lot more flexibility with your 6th player to kind of either sub them in on tank or sub them in on to support, and just be able to move your lineups around and everything.
I think especially for AST, like the main role he did sign up was for DPS, right? So it's like I feel like his DPS is probably undervalued too.
For the SR, like the fact that the SR cap is low this season, it's like makes a huge difference. The fact that like just thinking about like him being a 4350 tank player and a 3850 DPS player, I'm sure like if he actually were like hard grind on DPS, he could even climb that a little bit. 3850 isn't that far off of the SR cap either, so I could see that being like massive value by the end of the season. We still do have this.
Tommy and the Purple Eights have dropped out, but it's between Riddle and Yak fighting for this. And Neptune, do you think AST is gonna go for more than you?
Possibly, you know, he be grinding out here. You know, he's on teams like with Derpy, with Wub, very prevalent names in the community.
Okay, we're in mid bid territory now, so they're now mid bidding each other. But we have about 3 more mid bids until AST does pass Neptune.
It's just kind of like, you know, like about his commitment and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have access to that type of stuff, but I'm sure the captains know what they're bidding for.
Yep.
I think there's 500k. I'm assuming that's Riddle, and that's just it's taking a while to update here.
But the 500k barrier has been passed, and I think that's like whoever put that bid up is setting like a statement, like I'm willing to go in for this. If it's Yak, the investment was obviously go for the 7-player team, get AST, and then build around it, because Yak is a very versatile SR player. His DPS, tank, and support SRs are very, very different, so it allows him to pick up a value player at any SR in future drafting. So getting something like AST for him means a lot. Riddle, you have basically, you know, 2 GM players.
Oh, it is going to Yak. I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe there was a bid that was skipped in there somewhere. Maybe there was like a 490 that was skipped or something like that. But it has updated now officially. Whenever it switches over, you'll see it. But it has updated now to
500k.
Yak. 500k even. And that was another one. Like, I could see that coming. I know that Yak and a lot of the other Madison players are really good friends. I know like Fire Carter's kind of in their friend group. Like, AST makes a lot of sense for Yak. So I am kind of curious, like how he's willing to, like how he's able to work around that too. Yak does have 7 players, but that's a lot. I'm telling you, the top 12 are going to be GM.
Can we diversify it a bit, captains? Come on, like do something crazy. Do something crazy here. There's a lot of mind games you could be playing and that aren't getting played.
Akua took his sabbatical and now he's back with a vengeance. Last time he played, he did win a ring on the Zealous Zenith season 4. So, I mean, he's one of these players that, just regardless of the SR, you can just pick him up and he will be able to take over games single-handedly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's very flexible.
Like, when he SMG'd me.
Yeah.
Just kept WP'd me.
Yeah. And this is the point where captains start thinking, okay, about half the high GMs are off the board now.
Yeah.
We now need to start either ramping it up or switching our draft plan if a high GM is on our draft plan. You're looking at teams like Jack's team, Milo's team, Tommy's team, Riddle's team, and probably Sonic's team too, that are probably all looking for this carry GM just based off of previous bidding.
You know what I just realized that's really crazy? Is because these GMs are going for so high, like all these like 500k, what's going to happen is there are, I believe, 12 GM players and 14 teams. So on average, each team is going to get a GM player. But what's going to happen is as it goes further on, they're just going to get cheaper and cheaper because you have players like Booney only has 350k to spend overall. Yak only has 390k to spend. So as we get later on, it's like some of these captains just won't be able to bid it up. So like there could very easily be like a 2 or 3 team bidding war, but I don't see the later GMs that get put up, I don't see them going for as much as AST or as much as Neptune.
Counter argument to that, if there are 11 GMs, 12 GMs, and maybe only 10 of those are DPS tank role GMs.
That's true.
What you're looking for, and there are 14 captains, do you enter a point when GMs start getting put up, and then you get so concerned, can you actually get a GM that the last GM that goes up goes for an insanely high amount of money? That happens that's 2 seasons back.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. It's like you run out of options and you need specific players. So
the captains who win drafts, they're gonna win drafts based off having the most preparation of like possible situations. You know,
Jack gets Akua.
Jack gets it.
Yep, 451k.
That's lucky a steal too.
That's pretty good. Yeah. And Jack also has that 7th player too, so still has 479k left after taking his hyper carry DPS.
I think that is a great price to be taking Akua at if you're Jack.
Yeah.
Like, just looking at the other GMs that have gone off the board,
Where's
I think
Elko,
that is
though?
a safe, good price. But yeah, now we're looking at Elko as like the Elko and Vind, I think,
Yeah.
as the last main two.
Well, yeah, Vind is probably gonna play tank this season. I think Elko is the last. Let me think. My brain is so fried after all this prep work we've been doing. Elko, there he is. I think Elko
does come next.
is the last one. Chloe, if Chloe plays DPS, I think that's another one.
Yeah.
Fire Carter,
I'd say,
Vind, Silvertalls, Mardox, Moon. 450 instantly dropped off by Skyser.
And yeah, it's like how is like Jack is getting Akua for 451, and everybody's like instantly jumping on this because they're now realizing, what are your other options? We don't have another option. Let's just send Elko. So we're sending Elko to the moon, and he's gonna probably surpass 500k here because these captains are realizing we need to make a play. This was our plan. It got messed up. What next?
Yeah.
I mean, this is also like the scary part too, though. It's just like, how much of a budget are you gonna be, sacrificing for these players?
That's true.
So hopefully, we'll see like really dirty stuff if people have budgets in the later. Just grab any player they want.
One thing that's been really interesting to me, I think Riddle Dog has been involved in the bidding for every single one of the players so far. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he has been just in the race for all of these players so far. So I'm sure he really wants a GM player. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him go really hard on Elko here.
Or he and Sonic are just price checking.
Yeah.
Potentially. And I think that's a good strategy in moderation. If you know what you're doing and you're price checking people who need the player, then they can't really, fight back. They have to keep bidding in.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll have him break 500k. It does seem like it's started to slow down here. I think Sonic Ronic is out of the bidding, at least it looks like so far. But yeah, Elko coming off a ring, I think he's just as good of a player as like Neptune and some of those other high GM DPS. And there he goes. Officially, Elko goes to Skyser for 495k.
I love that for Skyser. I think he really benefits from drafting specifically Elko because he is one of those lower SR players on sheet, and he wants to play tank this season. If you want to play tank, you better have a DPS who can like back you. And let's say these two want to switch roles. Like Skyser can be flexible this season. If you put Elko on tank, he is 3.6. That is a steal.
Yeah. Now we get Pneumonia, the first non-GM getting put up. It's very interesting.
Invictus, my goat.
Yeah.
Invictus is one who rises above. Yo, y'all are sheep. That's all I'm saying. Like, all these sheep are leading the GMs first, spending all their money, and Invictus is the thinker. He's the one saying, I'm going to put up this player. And there's a lot of things you can do with this. You can go for this, you can not go for this if you're Invictus. This could be a play to dilute the market because there are a lot of DPS within the 3.5 to the 3.85 range. So if he dilutes the market for all these players, people are in the mood to spend money. They're in the mood to get carries. Pneumonia falls off the board.
I think this is
talking about this current pick, but like, we'll see later on, like who goes for Paninii War and like Lambo like that. I think it's gonna be really exciting. For
first bid by the
Ramshackle you guys got too.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. We're doing some cooking before, and it's like it gets so hard to build a lineup if you draft like a 4,200 like GM carry there, because then you just run out of SR to work with. But like you said, I think that putting a player like Pneumonia up right after you get all those huge like 500k bids, I think is a really interesting move, because now we get these teams that are kind of like, oh, if Neptune costs 500k, how much is Pneumonia going to cost? So I think this could be getting pushed up a lot more than we saw the previous bids going for, just because you have all these players getting drafted right after the super expensive ones.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention too, like Logan made a grand final appearance last season too, so he should for sure be a very hot, hot commodity out here, especially on that Queen. I know he's not on that role anymore, but he's a very local player,
I feel
was
like
just about to mention, he made the grand finals on an off roll. Now he's on his main roll. What does that mean for Logan? Stonks up.
yeah, he also
Exactly.
All I'm saying.
I believe he I don't know if he was off rolling when he was on the crewmate season 1, but I know he also made the finals season 1 of Aurora, so he's like a perennial finals contender. Yeah, I think currently we do see EJ leading the bids right now. It looks like EJ and Invictus are in this big bidding war here for Pneumonia.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see the bidding slow down here, and it actually does. EJ will be taking Pneumonia for 260k. I
Yeah.
like that deal.
Yeah.
I think it's good for EJ specifically. If he wants to build a mid SR team, I think that works out well in his scheme.
That's a big chunk of your lineup, but the fact that Pneumonia can play both GPS and support at a very high level, I think that's a lot of flexibility, which you might not be able to get later on in the draft. So I'm not unhappy with this either. So let's see. Oh, this is not in order. The thing I'm looking at isn't updated. Who would be next? We'd go back to Milo. Milo's putting up the next player. Then back to the GMs again.
Sheep.
I think like we saw Poi go for what was that, 470 something, 477. Vind is the exact same SR. He's not known for being like as big of a caller, not as big of a like this big VOD reviewer guy that Poi is, but he is still a very good tank player. Skycer goes all in on him with 343k.
Oh, wait,
Could
is
you-
that actually an all in?
Yeah, that's more of a price check, because like looking
Yeah.
at Vind, like Vind is gonna probably go for 400k at least. So like
Okay.
Skycer is just putting that up to speed it up a little bit.
And also, Yaxian here, the price check too. That's the majority of his budget.
Could you imagine if he gets Vind and ASG design? No, that was the entirety
Yeah.
of his budget.
Yeah, what
Dude, Riddle and Milo must be mauling here.
Yeah.
Like, what are these guys doing? You know?
Sonic Ronic, another player that's still in this bidding war here. Sonic, I think, is another. Sonic and Riddle have both been like consistently in on a lot of these players, these high GM players, and both of them could really use a high SR tank like Vin. So
Yeah, especially like we talked about Sonic, just really gunning at it early, and this is like another chance for him to get possibly what he wants. Obviously I don't know the inside of his mind, but this is the type of stuff that I would see him voting for, as well as with Milo here too.
will Vin go for more than Poi?
Yeah, if it comes down to a bidding war, you'd think that Milo would win it. Or
Yeah.
Charbitron, somebody who doesn't have the 6th player, but does have a pretty sizable budget. Riddle going in heavy on this is calculated risk, but it's one that could pay off.
Like I said, he's been kind of going in on a lot of these GM players. I think that's kind of what he's looking for. I think he's just kind of trying to test the waters on all of these GM players, because I'm sure he has different lineups built for each one of these big SRs. So I'm sure that if he's able to get Vint, he's going to have something on one of his sheets about how he's going to build a team around that and everything.
Yeah.
But Milo really wants this too, so about to break 500k too if it keeps going.
We're at about this threshold point here where we're running out of GMs.
Oh, there it goes.
Players running out of time, and Milo is
Gets it.
getting the bid onto Vin. I think he's going to be very happy with that, securing himself a GM that he can play around.
Yeah, like you did say earlier, it's going to be really interesting now, because like I said, Riddle really wants one of these GM players, and we're starting to run out of options for him. So he might have to pay a little bit more than he was expecting to with some of these players
Who
going
are
so
the
late.
current ones out here?
Chloe, Silvertall's Moon, Mardox.
And like we talked about, a lot of those are like support players too.
Cupcake gets put out here. This is another good, not a GM player, but Cupcake is a very good high SR player that could also just fill that same role. I would not be surprised to see him go for a lot of money here, especially now that some of those GM DPS are off the board.
Yeah, I don't want to call it too soon, but I think that having GMs go really, really early could be just like crazy budget, like
that's true.
inflation, and allow for some teams to make extraordinarily unfair comps. I'm looking at specifically Firestarboss and Invictus, players who are mid SR themselves and can build a like mid SR team around them, and because every other captain is half their money or less right now,
That's
they could just be outplayed this draft. So
Cupcake's
just gonna go up. Every single player here is going up for a ton of money, and because everybody's in the mindset, we need these players. We're not gonna wait. We need the player to build around.
I think
it could come back to cost them.
Charbotron also, I think, could really use a good deep, like a high SR DPS like Cupcake. We've seen her raise. She looks like she's starting to really go for it right now. A lot of the players that I've noticed currently are bidding are currently without their second player right now. So we see right now we have Tommy Slap, Firestar, Riddle, Charbotron, Sonic, Ronic, and Invictus. So only about 6 teams without that second player. So like you said, especially if you're looking for these high DPS or high SR DPS right now, I could see this budget going up really quickly here. We're already about to break 300k.
I think this is going to directly help Charbotron the most, because I feel like Charbotron, one of her initial plans probably got messed up by having one of those high GMs come off the board. So now she needs to fall back on something. I think Cupcake's a amazing fallback player for a lot less SR, and it allows her to build a potentially very dangerous backline if she goes for a good friend of hers.
Yeah, I know Cupcake is I don't think he played last season, but the previous 2 seasons he like popped off, consistently able to have a lot of value on these DPS picks. He also does play support. He has a really good support too. He did only sign up as DPS, but a lot of mechanics, a lot of game sense, again, with being able to flex onto multiple roles there, or like with that mindset of having that flexibility. I'm sure even though he is signed up on DPS only, has a lot of those skills that I think could translate very well. And we do see it go to Cupcake for 300k. Honestly, I think that's kind of cheap relative to some of the other players.
I got Cupcake my season for I think a bit under I got a bit under 400k. I forget the exact price, but obviously the draft was different that season, potentially different money, but at the same time, you know, that I think is a good steal for Charbotron. I'm really glad she went out.
We're starting to get to the end of some of these GM players again here too. I think it's really interesting. Like Cupcake, you can get 1.5 Cupcakes for cheaper than you can get 1 Neptune.
Hey, I mean, same with 1 Vind and 1 Poi and
one
AST and 1 Elko. So I don't know.
Ain't just the Neptune show, right? Everyone else out here is getting, especially AST. You know, AST higher Elko. You know.
Moon is from Mankato, or Mankato State on their varsity team too. I know we got a lot of rookies this season coming from there too. He's been showing up a lot to these pugs, so we got to see him quite a bit during pugs. Very good at the flex support, especially his Baptiste was really impressing me.
Tommy goes in really big on this. I don't think he needed to jump up that quick for this specific player.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him. He might actually get it here. 300k again.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Ooh. The boss
305. Yeah, Firestarboss coming in. That is a big jump from 300k to 100k, but like you're looking at this 4150 support, and then you're looking at Cupcake with his 3850 DPS. It's like the SR wise is a much higher for Moon, but it is a different role. So that's kind of
also just being able to see the tank too. Like
that's the tank too.
Option.
3700 is not like a bad tank either. I don't think I've seen him play tank, but just having that ability to play tank is like the flexibility is huge. For any of these teams.
Both these players are likely looking towards tank, Firestarboss, and
that's
Tommy
true.
Slack
That's a good point.
So
does go to Firestarboss.
I think yeah. I mean, Moon definitely a very valuable player. Definitely seems to be very active in the community. Very excited to have him here. But I think the gun was jumped a bit. Usually with rookie players, unless they're like the big star rookie player, you can take it slow, take it one at a time. Like how I played Neptune last season. Just slowly raising him up, and eventually the budget's going to dilute.
AST design.
Have other options.
AST design was not a good example of how this works. It normally does not work like that. But yeah, like Moon, the support and the tank options are very good. Purple Jesus, he has been, in my opinion, I think I am the most curious of him out of anyone, because his SR 3500 isn't that high. I think he's personally better than that, but the fact that he's locked to DPS when normally he does play tank in this league. I have no idea. He could go for a lot of money. He could go for really cheap. I have no idea. So I'm really glad we get to see this come out early. It's going to be interesting too, because a lot of these teams just don't have anything that they even know what they're building around yet. So
Yeah. I also find it really interesting that everybody seems to be going for one player and then like dropping back, and that's somewhat attributed to like all the players being like very, very high players thus far. Like, but if you put up a lower player here, you can kind of flush some budgets. I want to see players start to do that. PJ, I think he's obviously exceptional on the tank role. I think he's a big question mark in a lot of these teams' minds on the DPS. But for somebody like Riddle Dog, who knows PJ really well, who's played on a team with PJ, I think this is a really good investment because you get that synergy, you get that base to build around in two fairly high players.
Yeah. We do see it starting to slow down here, so I'd be surprised to see PJ go for around this budget.
Either way, I'm really excited for PJ this season. I haven't seen much of his DPS, but I think if you have a GM tank game sense, I don't know if he's exactly GM on paper for tank, but if you have a GM tank game sense,
that's true.
You can kind of hop on DPS.
Like it's one of those things where some people say that like you're some people are like, oh, you know, this guy's really high on tank, but the DPS is not as good. But the fact that you have a lot of the skills that translate, like if you're GM on tank, you're still probably good at all of the roles. It just you might not have that SR on paper, but like he's still
reminds
very
me
good.
about Poke last season, you know. Like especially watching like his gameplay, it's just like he was for sure way higher than the SR showed, of course.
And PJ has that exact same potential here. Riddle making it very adamant that he wants it. I think we usually see him drop at least 1 or 2 bids, but this time 4 bids on a player might be falling to Riddle here.
Yeah, there it goes. It makes a lot of sense. That's really interesting too, because like we saw him going for those high SR players. PJ is exactly the average SR, so we could see Riddle starting to draft a flat team here. Himself at 3,800 and PJ at 3,500. I don't know if you really have that space to get these high SR, either Mardoks or Silvertalls or anyone like that high SR later on in the draft.
The dangerous thing about flat teams at this rate is if you're spending about 200k on a flat team, you're gonna run out of budget on your 4th player drafted. So you're still gonna have like one small little hole there that you need a player with. So
Rusty Goomba
teams sort of need to start. I don't want to say chilling out, but I want to see them like
pulling off the gas a little bit.
Pulling off the gas in a sense. Yes.
Rusty Goomba, he's another one that's really interesting to me. Like SR wise, he's not as high as some of those like the Neptunes or the Elkos or the AST designs, but the fact that he has this versatility, is willing to play everything, and is a very active member of the community, I feel like Rusty Goomba could be another player that could go for a lot, or maybe people just don't see him at that high enough SR, so they might not go as high as like Cupcake or even PJ going for 230k. I personally think that Rusty Goomba, like looking at his SR, looking at this flexibility, I feel like I could see him going for a lot of money.
Yeah, being so well-rounded is really important, I feel like.
It does seem like they're already starting to slow down on the bids here, so someone might get a steal here for Rusty Goomba. Do you see a big jump here from Invictus? Maybe Invictus is going to go after Rusty Goomba here. Yeah, like I said earlier, like the tank and the DPS SR, like it drops off really hard after some of those high GM players. So 3,700 still is not a bad SR tank, which is why like I think it was Moon is 3,700 tank. That's still an option for him too to play tank there. So
yeah, but if you're looking at the number of tanks in the league, there are a lot more tanks than there are DPS and support.
Yeah,
so you're gonna have more people stepping up and say, "I want to play tank." Tommy is somebody who is personally stepping up and saying, at least in his draft, he's like, "Oh, okay, I want to play tank. I definitely want this." So now, I think we're seeing Tommy go in on this. We're seeing Skycer go in on this. Somebody who also wants to play tank and also is maybe risking half his. Well, not necessarily risking half his budget, but
I could
half
see.
his budget here.
I could see Skycer getting. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you want to like play him on support. You can have like the core of your team being Skycer, Elko, and Rusty Goomba. I think that's a pretty good core. You might have to be a little bit cheaper on with your later picks, but I feel like especially later on in the draft, teams are going to run out of money, so you might be able to get a steal later on.
I mean, I think the steals is what's gonna make this draft. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, like, you can win with like a good enough high SR player. You can win with
That's
a good enough
true.
GM, but you also need to build a team around those players. You need to build a team that is able to adapt. You need to build a team that's flexible. And Rusty Goomba is one of those players who is extraordinarily flexible. Looking at mock drafts, I saw him on mock drafts on support, main support. I saw him on DPS. I saw him on tank. He's somebody who you could just put him anywhere. He's above the SR cap, and he is going to definitely leave a mark on whatever team he's on.
Yeah. He's also I know I mentioned this earlier. There's some players that are just very active in the community, very active with their teams. Rusty Goomba is one of those. I think that does go a long way, both in terms of like kind of establishing your team's vibes and kind of getting that leadership there.
And Invictus does come in with a 2-1-3.
Invictus seems like he really wants Rusty Goomba here, so.
Yeah, I think these are very interesting picks. Invictus right now is looking at a team that already has what does he already have?
Himself.
Oh, he doesn't have anybody right now.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So he has a lot of budget to work with. So if he's going for that like mid SR team, I think this is a very good pick. Riddle's sort of the same boat here, looking for a mid SR team, looking for somebody who is, you know, gonna round out the team, balance out the team. But
that might be
Riddle
it.
is he already has a person.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It seems like it's slowed down. We got the min bid from Invictus at 213k, and there it goes. It looks like Rusty Goomba is going to Invictus for 213k. I think that's a really good price there. I think that's I'm really happy if I'm Invictus. The fact that it's this early too, you can still like build it again, like you said. Any of his roles, you could build a team around it. So being able to get him this early,
what is his plan for Rusty here? Because
he probably doesn't have one. Because like
he
again,
doesn't need one.
You don't have to be like, oh, you know, I'm going to play Rusty Goomba on DPS, so I need to draft the support. Or you're going to be like, oh, I need a DPS now because Rusty Goomba's going to play tank. He can still just kind of like bid on whoever he wants and then just move Rusty Goomba around to whatever he wants, whatever fits with his team. So I think that's a really good pick. We now are down to 2 teams that do not have their second player yet, Sonic Ronic and Tommy Slat, which is really interesting because both of them have been pretty active so far in these bids. So
I think. Oh, finally, we have some changes.
There he is.
There he is, Mr. Frosty himself. Will he go for 370k or whatever, like he went for last time? Who knows?
He went for a crazy amount last season. The fact that you have all of these high SR players, you have a relatively low SR cap, means if you draft one of these high GM players, you kind of need someone to accommodate for that. Not necessarily even a SR sync, but just a little bit lower below the average, just to kind of bring your team closer to that average. Frosty is one of those players that is a really good support player, and his like SR price is really cheap relative to his skill. He's kind of been known for a really long time of being like one of the best SR syncs in the league, and we've kind of seen that based on how much he's been getting bid on for the last couple seasons. I think, like you said, last season, I think he was in the 300Ks. I don't know if he's going to go for that much this season, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for a pretty penny here.
Yeah, I would love to see him end up on a team with Booney or a team with Milo, just based off the teams that they've built so far, because it looks like both those teams have a staple tank and they have a staple support. Or a staple DPS. And then they need that like staple support. Getting your staple support, your staple flex support, and your staple flex support that can like deadlift the healing if you need him to at a 3050 line is amazing. So I'm not surprised this much is being bid onto Frosty. I think that this, like, just on paper he's valuable to like 5 or 6 teams here, and we're just seeing the 2 teams that are willing to spend the most. But I'm pretty sure a lot of teams had Frosty in their plan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Riddle, I guess makes a lot of sense too, because like I said, it looks like Riddle is going to have a pretty flat team. So Frosty's not as hard of an SR sync as some of the other players, but if you're trying to build a flat team, Frosty would fit in perfectly with that team there.
I think the interesting thing I'm seeing about this is as we're seeing a lot of players who like that have gone off so far that have like exceptional value for their SR or just crazy high SR, right?
Yeah.
I think like most of the players are crazy high SR, and then I'll give the shout to Pneumonia, I'll give a shout to Rusty, and I'll give a shout to Frosty here as players who are look at their SR, and you know that they can add more value than their SR
Yeah.
to the team, and that's what you're looking in players. The weird thing about that is that because all these players are going off super early, if there are other players like that that trickle on later into the draft,
Yep.
they can go for a lot less.
I was talking to
So,
Sonic Ronic
again,
earlier.
Yeah, keep your options open, captains. That's what
I
I'm
was
saying.
talking to Sonic Ronic. I don't know if he was really worried about his budget, but looking at some of the budget now, he has such a huge advantage of some of these other captains. So he's going to get to the point where he'll just be able to get any player he wants because he's able to just outbid anyone. Him and Tommy Slat, again, are just so high above some of those other captains. I think the third highest is probably, what, 599 or 682 from MuffinLumps, which is 200k SR lower than Sonic Ronic. So I think, like you said, the later on we go, the cheaper these players are going to go. You might be able to get a steal really good late in the draft.
And we're seeing Yak put up like almost most of his money now, and
Yeah.
he gets it. He gets it for Frosty.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, like AST design, I don't know if he's going to play DPS or tank on Yak's team, but just that SR AST Designs has and that SR that Yak has, you're going to need someone to kind of pull that back down a little bit. Frosty's like I said, he's a really good sync, but he now has 200k for his last 4 players. So
Yeah, that's what I wanted
So
to
he's
mention.
pretty much out of the bidding for the most part, right?
that is a pretty solid
If
core.
the bidding continues like this, though, if like the moment that we get like, if once people start trying to sneak in like sleeper picks here, or start trying to like put people up for reasons other than drafting them, I think that's when we're gonna see teams start taking advantage of the system and taking advantage of the amount of money that some players.
Koneko! There he is. The first.
Another beautiful pick.
He is like the first true sync we see so far. So this begs the question: how much do teams need syncs? Are they going to go a ton of money on Cone, or is he going to go for really cheap because he's a low SR? I don't know. I've seen this guy play. I think for 2050 he's really good, but we do see it's starting off really slow here. 1k to 5k to 10k.
I'm glad it's starting off slow here. I'm glad that nobody's jumping the gun on this. And just to let you guys know, the min bid system here, if you're under a 3k peak, your min bid is 2k. If you're under a 4k peak, your min bid is 3k, and if you're 4k plus player, your min bid is 4k. So we saw a lot of min bids being 4k previously. Now we're gonna start getting those 3k, 2k min bids. So seeing a little bit more money dropped per bid here. Captains obviously having to be very careful with the amount of money they spend.
Yeah, it is starting to get up there closer, but I mean, it seems like it's really going to be only Booney and Sonic Ronic that are going after Cone. So it is really interesting to see it still be this low. We were doing some discussions about how much we thought our lower SR players are going to be, and I will say I thought it would be a little bit higher than 27. Maybe part of it too is it's going to happen the same way, like you said earlier, where you're going to run out of these SR syncs. The later ones that go off might be more expensive than this as you start to run out of options.
It's also the fact that I think Konicho doesn't have like tank and DPS available too.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the other syncs like have all that flexibility, you know, so they're for sure worth more.
That's true. That's fair.
I personally, maybe a controversial take, I think that this bid benefits Tommy Slat, who's coming in now, more than it does Booney and Sonic. Booney and Sonic can be their own SR sync, but for
That's true.
Tommy Slat, I'll give Rectaxis a shout, and especially Invictus here. Like, you're looking at an SR sync and thinking, okay, people spent a lot of money on these really high SR players. We got a lot of players who can play DPS, who can play support at a 3.6k level. If I get Koneko, I can build an above average SR team around that player. And for this much money, I think Koneko is much better than this from what I've heard. His Pokemon skill definitely is much better than this.
True.
But that's another story for a different time.
Another thing that we got to talk about too is the minimum play time. You're going to have this 6th player that subs in. Cone allows you to kind of you kind of know what you're going to sub him in on. If you do manage to get like another like mid to lower SR support, you can just kind of sub 1-to-1 really easily. So I could see that being another thing that captains are kind of thinking about is the fact that you're drafting him, and I mean, they could actually start him. I could see him on a starting team that's a really high SR lineup. We do see like Rect Cactus and Poi, for example. Those are two like pretty high SR players. So getting this guy, you might be able to just leave him in the entire time. Make your subs, maybe make your subs on DPS, or there's so many like 3.6k and 3.5k.
Yeah, and if someone steals him here too, it's like we still have a
there it is.
GMs available on the table.
He goes to Rect Cactus for 50k. Again, I think that's pretty good.
Great pick, because Poise sitting at that 4k SR on tank.
Yeah.
Rect Cactus is also himself above the SR cap if he wants to play himself on DPS, and on support around that 3.6, 3.5k region. Having Koneko allows you to say, I can draft a high SR tank, or I can draft a high SR DPS, and I can draft a high SR support next. Either way, I'm fine. I'm good, because I have Koneko.
Yeah,
I think it was a steal for Koneko.
Still have Sonic Ronic and Tommy Slap that do not have their second player yet. Back to Skyser putting his player up. Already does have Elko, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just puts like another high SR player up just to get some other teams to reduce their budget here a little bit.
Yeah, I think that should be the strategy that Skyster approaches here.
KC Dunn!
Yeah,
he's from
KC Dunn come in here.
NAU. I know we got another a big chunk of NAU players coming up. KC Dunn, like for his SR, he's one of the higher SR DPS. Again, in that mid range, there's kind of this big hodgepodge of DPS players, 3.5k to like 3650. KC Dunn is a little bit higher on that. So if you're trying to look at this like above average DPS player, like KC Dunn is probably one of the better ones you can get. He also has shown up in scrims a lot too, and I feel like he's a really good, especially for his SR.
And I don't know how much these player bucks have been leaked, we'll call it that, but I've heard Casey Dunn's like really good on that DPS row. And
yeah.
I'd just pick him up as like a carry DPS, somebody to, you know, attempt to match the Elkos, the Akuas, the Neptunes of the world. And it like if you're required to match that, but you go and you don't necessarily match it, but you play almost as close as that, but your team around you is so much better to support you, you know, in those situations. It's such a team game, Overwatch, that going for less money here is not a bad thing for KC Dunn.
I mean, 210k, it's still
so value.
We're starting to get up there. I mean, looking at Rusty Goomba, who is, I think Rusty was a little bit lower, but kind of around the same range of SRs. He went for 213k, and we're already quite a bit above that now. So, starting to set the tone here. Maybe a lot of these mid-SR players, I thought they were going to go for a little bit cheaper than that. Maybe they are going to be still kind of expensive. I'm kind of curious, because there's a lot of like 3,500 SR players on DPS. So when they come up, I wonder if maybe that's going to scale, their SR is going to scale into their budget too, or if it's still going to be around the same range of like 200-ish K.
I think these are the three captains that I'd see most wanting to bid for it. Sonic drops out.
Yeah,
I do kind of like it now that it's getting up to like 270k. Sonic just like being patient with this. So now it goes down between Firestarboss, who already has Moon, and EJ, who already has Pneumonia. So EJ looking for a DPS pairing, which would be very valuable. Giving Pneumonia a solid DPS to play with allows you to just diff on DPS, in my opinion, because the teams that spent a lot of money on these GM DPS are getting a 3k, 4k, or 3k average DPS for their secondary DPS, and are in a bit more, dire straits to have both those DPS perform. So I think KC Dunn is somebody who, can and will definitely be able to add a lot of value to either of these teams.
Yeah, I think the fact that you're already getting your third player is like also a really good move for these teams. It's just kind of you know what your last three players are going to be. Both have 6-man rosters. KC Dunn has now officially gone to the Ramshackled Roosters with EJ. But yeah, being able to kind of get 3 players early, you kind of know exactly what you need. And EJ still has a decent amount of money. Again, like KC Dunn and Pneumonia, the duo, slightly over 500k. I think was that 540. And being able to draft like a solid DPS line goes really far. Like Still looking for a
once you
tank,
start getting
though.
that like 3-player like lineup too, it's
Yeah.
just like so much. I
Ooh.
think relief to just find like the 2 others and then have that like last spot, and then the rookie of the year Melon comes in here.
Yep. I think I'm trying to remember. I can't remember who won PMA award. It might have been Melon won PMA award too.
And Rookie of the Year, I think.
He won both. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's kind of known to be one of those like big positive players. Another like 3,600 player on DPS and on tank, like has that flexibility, could go a really, really far with some of these teams here. Sonic Ronic against Backhead. Sonic Ronic still does not have his first player. Melon would
Sonic
be.
and Tommy
And
are
Tommy
like
slot,
looking
too.
for the player, you know, like where is this guy? Where is he gonna drop from the sky? And at this point in time, like you're getting to the point where players could start dropping from the sky fairly shortly. This is again a half budget investment for most players, if not more. The only players it's not gonna be that for are Muffin, Tommy,
Charb.
Riddle,
Yeah.
Charb, Sonic, and Jack, and Invictus, and everybody else is kind of like breaking bank if they want to go for it.
You know what's crazy to me is we still have Moon and not Moon. We have Mardox and Silver Dolls are still on the board. 2 GM support players. They might go for a lot cheaper than I expected them to. Seeing how some of
Yeah.
these other captains are starting to run a little bit lower on money right now.
GM supports, I think, and like I really hope that captains like had awareness of this, but because there's so many GM supports around the exact same range, if you can find a secretly good one there, you can get a lot of value. But
Yeah.
back to Melon here. You got the positivity, you got the energy, you got a ability to play them on either tank or DPS. Sonic and Riddle, the 2 teams seeming to go for it. Sonic needs a player to build off of. Melon is a very good one to start with. Well, Riddle Dog, on the other hand, looking for this mid SR team that we were talking about,
Yeah.
has Purple Jesus at the SR cap, has himself a bit over. Melon going a bit over sort of indicates that he's looking for maybe a bit of a sync, but not like a true sync, which
Yeah.
may actually go for less money than a true sync on support.
Yeah, if you get like someone like I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Wiggle Higgle is 2,900, I believe. Getting someone like that, he's not super low, so he does kind of still restrict your team a little bit, but he is low enough that if you're going to build a flat team, he's like a really solid support to get.
The pick is in. Melon is going to go over to Sonic Chronic for 310k.
I think that's pretty good, especially like you get your tank player. Sonic did need a tank player. Melon is like a great player, has a lot of flexibility, really positive. I think that's a pretty good price for him.
Or the DPS choice too.
Now
you know?
Tommy Slat's sitting there solid at 905k.
Surely Tommy can go forever. Anyone he really wants that's in his scheme, you know.
Tommy's scheme. I think that Tommy has a very set scheme here. That he's just waiting for the right pieces to come into play, and because he's eventually going to have double the budget of everybody else, if he waits for those pieces to go later and later and later in the draft, he will be in a better position.
Yeah, Jack now putting up his player, goes for Foost.
Boost coming out.
I think Foost is another one of those players just like Melon, like still a really good SR. I think he's still a really good player too. Has that flexibility to play on all 3 roles. So could be a really good player to just kind of build your team around.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Starting off kind of slow here. We haven't seen some of those big like 100k jumps. Never mind.
I love
I was
that.
gonna say.
I love that Melon and Foost going for around the exact same, going at the exact same time.
Melon and Foost.
They're probably not going to be on the same team this season here.
Yeah.
Just how SR and budget works out. But last season, dynamic duo, and I'd love to see those 2 going back to back. And I know when we were talking about players to draft on specifically DPS, we were thinking Melon, Foost, 2 very value picks that you can have on DPS, and they can fulfill that carry role. And the fact that you can draft 2 players sort of like that together potentially is very, very promising.
Yeah. Foost, I think last season only went for 75k. So he was a little bit slept on going into last season, ended up on the Bunger Brigade, and did really well in that team too. So seeing this big jump in terms of his the price he's going for makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love this for Fire, and I love this for Invictus. I think
Yeah.
that Foost is a insane, like, you know, complement to Invictus on DPS, and I think Foost is an insane complement to Fire if he goes
Yeah.
on to the tank role. Foost can also do the supporting too. I know he signed up as support last season, might be one of the reasons he went a bit cheaper, but at the same time, got an insane DPS in him. He showed that on the Bunker Brigade, and somebody who definitely I'd be spending this much money on. I wouldn't be surprised if it went a little bit more as well. But
Yeah. It's starting to
if
slow
Foos
down
manages
here,
to go
though.
to Fire, if Foos manages to go to for Fire for this price, I'm kind of liking Fire's team, and that is exactly what is going to happen.
Yeah. Again, Fire now has his core here. 3 players so far.
And he still has a decent amount of budget left too, I'd say.
250 and only 2 more like starters you would need. So like that being your core, that's really solid. I think he is a little bit higher on terms of SR right now though, so he is probably going to need to look for a sync later on in the draft here. But so far for Fire, looking really good so far.
That's when you two come in.
I know. Could you imagine?
Yeah, you gotta save us for the last 2, you know.
Oh, War.
I
I don't.
You
I
always
don't
save
think.
the best for last.
I don't think we've done this yet. War. Should we put money on who goes for more?
Me or you?
Yeah.
I mean, who are you betting on goes for more?
Ooh. I think I'm gonna go for more, by a little bit. I think I'm gonna be close to you.
I think I'm gonna go for more.
Okay.
So, well, I guess we'll have to wait and
I was
see.
about to
for when
say,
we
you
come
both
up.
gotta do yourself. You gotta do yourself.
Yeah.
And then Shoreline Pie
Shoreline
is
Pie.
coming out here.
This guy, I think this guy's gonna be so good. Yeah, he's BPL.
Yep.
He is a former GM peak, but he is 3,600 on the sheet. I think in terms of value, it's hard to get better value than Shoreline Pie. I think there's also a lot of teams I can see going after him.
But okay, you all gotta keep remembering here the amount of 3.6k players.
That's true.
Shoreline Pie, I think, is a really valuable one, but in the back pocket, you still got Sky, Sanemi, Met, BBQ, Tanikby, Zinth.
Yeah.
All of these players, if every single player here goes for like this 300k average, it may allow for the players who get drafted on the late end of things to go for cheaper. I think, you know, that, and
That's true.
I think that players should be very tactical about, and specifically which one they want, picking up the most valuable, least valuable ones between those two, but also look at how they can complement your team. And I feel like a lot of captains don't when they do that. Like Shoreline Pie, I don't know if he's flex or hit scan, obviously a rookie this season, but it really goes into what's the team you've built and how can he complement. Sonic going for him for a complementary, potentially DPS for Met or a complementary DPS for himself, and Riddle
Melon.
wants probably the Purple Jesus Shoreline Pie DPS line, which is crazy.
I was about to say, Met's not on the board yet.
Going for the flattest team.
Sorry. Yep.
The Funky Town Flop is more like the Funky Town Flattas. Yeah.
I can't believe you dropped the F-bomb on stream.
Wait, did I?
I heard it. No, I was teasing Panini.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm kind of surprised he's going for this much. Like I said earlier, I did kind of expect him to go for. He's one of the higher SR, or in my opinion, he's one of the better DPS on those like kind of that cluster of the DPS players we have. I would put him right next to Casey Dunn. Casey Dunn only went for 280, and Shoreline already up to almost 350 so far.
Yeah, I mean a lot of players are just valuing that like previous peak experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a player's previous profile and you see GM anywhere in there, and you see him on the sheet for 360 or 3,600. That's pretty high.
Very valuable.
But yeah, we are.
I'm wondering how far they're gonna go with this. Like this is.
They've already
kind of stretching here.
they've already gone up for at least 100k from each other after starting this bidding war. I think it's got to start slowing down. Like we're looking at some of this. They're both around the same budget too, but it's probably going to go close to 400k, and both of these teams have about 550 left. So they're going to be kind of running out of money for the last few players. So
Yeah.
definitely a
400%.
risk doing it this early.
I mean, you got like two amazing players in either Melon Shoreline or, you know, Purple Jesus Shoreline, but I'm kind of
Yeah.
worried for what's the plan for the last three players
Yeah.
when this is effectively going to suck up your budget to about 200k. 200k for three in this economy. I'm not sure.
It's a little like, I mean, I guess it's probably fine for Riddle, but I think I'm still trying to think about some of those players that are just slightly below the SR cap. I mean, Transflect is about 3k. Again, Wiggle Haggle is about 3k. I'm struggling to think about people that are right below that line. There's kind of a big gap between like some 2700, 2600. So I think it is making this flat team. Riddle does in fact get Shoreline Pie. But I think like a lot of those, like we said earlier, a lot of those SR sinks are going to be pretty expensive. So I'm getting a little
100%.
worried for Riddle's team because he is probably going to need an SR sync. I would assume on support.
Technically not right now. He's sitting at a 3.5 point, like 3.56-ish average, or kind of. So like
The
he
3600,
doesn't
I
technically
guess.
need a sync if he can swing a tank that is 3.5 and a support that's 3.4. Or he can take the other end of that. You're talking about some of those GM players like Silvertall, like Meridoc, like Para, like Carter. Yes,
Yeah.
there we go. You can swing some of those players.
Wait.
Get them for a cheaper amount. Get them set up in a fairly good spot.
Wait, is Fire Carter not on a team? I knew I
Firecrotter's
was forgetting
not on
one.
the team
I
yet.
knew there was one I was forgetting. That's
Ooh,
crazy.
Razzmatazz there though.
Razzmatazz, I could see a lot of teams going after her too. Again, like very flexible, definitely willing to play the DPS or the support, kind of known for her Ana. 3500 means you're not going to have to worry too much about getting a sync later on, as she's right at this SR. So I think this could be really good here. Booney going for Razzmatazz. Again, like he's trying to build this core. He's going to have, I would assume himself on tank and Neptune on DPS. Having Razzmatazz to play that support would really fill out that roster pretty well.
Invictus also jumping in on this. Somebody who has a decent amount of experience with Raz. I know St. Michael Hawks, shout out. Can be a very good complementary player, and I think Raz is somebody who's definitely worth more than her SR. She's had a lot of experience in the league, a lot of experience, you know, playing in a wide variety of teams.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a very good pickup and somebody who can be central to your roster on the support role or even on the DPS role. I think that this season is probably one of the best if she wants to flex around.
We see MuffinLumps coming in. I haven't seen MuffinLumps in a while. I think the only player he has bid on was Fedora Master. So like again, he's kind of slipping under the radar now. He has the second highest budget left, which is crazy.
Third. Tommy Slat hasn't bid and Invictus.
Oh, Invictus is higher, right? MuffinLumps does get Razzmatazz. I know Razzmatazz and Fedora do have some really good synergy there. That team should be full of vibes there. I think it'd be a really fun team to play on.
Yep, and it's a great complementary support to MuffinLumps. I know MuffinLumps loves to play that main support. Razzmatazz loves to play that flex support. Their hero pools look so good together, and when you have a backline, you know, slightly under the SR cap, but is both like fairly value picks and both comfortable on their role, it means a lot if you're able to get a good DPS and a good tank to complement with that.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We
I
are
mean,
now...
so, like, what do you think, you know, he goes for next, you know?
That's a good question. I mean, he's
that's
got to
the
get
thing.
a tank at some point, right?
Well, that's the thing. There's so many DPS options still on the board, and there's a lot of tank options still on the board.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's crazy that people are waiting out
I
much.
I feel like Muffin has got to get a tank at some point. I know there are, again, like a lot of really good tank options left. So I'm not surprised he hasn't gotten one yet, but I think that's probably going to be the next thing he's looking at right now.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, like, I think it was Poi and Vin. Vin stepped off the board, but then you have that next echelon of tanks, Dire, Fish, and Poke. I think that those are great target
That's
tanks
true.
for Muffin.
That's true. We do have, we are now 19 picks in, and Tommy Slat still does not have a player.
I think Tommy is cooking right now.
He is cooking.
Okay, I could be eating my words at some point in time, but I think Tommy Slat is cooking
So,
right now.
I mean,
think
like we said,
he has the read.
There's still 3 GMs left. And he's going to basically get to pick whichever one he wants if he decides to go a GM route. But
Yep, and he's gonna get that GM for, in my opinion, a lot less than the other GMs that have come up. And the fact that, you know, players keep on spewing up, they keep on getting put on the board, their value keeps on increasing. Eventually the budget's gonna run out. Eventually it will run out for all these players, and Tommy Slat has the trademark Corey and Flambeau strategy, and that has worked before.
Yeah.
Well, so Sky gets put up here, so.
I think this is a, like we mentioned earlier, I think he's one of the better DPS that are in that kind of like mid-range level. 3,800 is the highest, I think, outside of GMs. Him and Cupcake were 3,800 and 3,850. We did see Cupcake earlier go for 300k. So Sky, I would be surprised to see him right around that. I know he is a rookie, so he might go a little bit cheaper, but I still think, like, could have another decent chunk of your budget spent on this guy. And I've heard very good things about him. He is from BPL. I heard that he might be in contention for his league's MVP. So, like, coming out of that, like, BPL has a lot of competition there. Anytime you're even in the conversation for MVP, that's just a sign that you're just a good player for your level. So, I think this could be he could show up this season.
If Sky goes for under 250k, I think it's a steal compared to
that's fair.
everything else we've seen. Like, look at every single other DPS at or around his SR. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think there are some good DPS left there. Like Zenth, after the way Zenth and Met played last season, like for 3650 each, I think they're both 3650. They're very good DPS, especially for their SR. People in the league know that, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them go for a lot too. So like it is still really early, but I think this could be a good player right here. It does seem like it's slowed down, and Sky does go to the Sydney Sea Dragons.
And I think that is okay. So is Sonic gonna be? Is Melon just gonna be the tank of that team, and then Sky gonna be
I think so.
Sky Sonic DPS line?
So you know what's
that cooks. That actually kind of cooks.
So he does need a support too.
But he can always flex himself onto that support, and
he
be
could
that
do that. No, wait.
Team if he wants to turn around a cheap tank here.
Did he take support off his signups? I know he mentioned at some point he did.
Oh, he did. Yes, he did.
He did.
Yep.
So he can't flex over to support.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
I haven't done the math yet, but like the way he's building his team too, he could take, again, the fact that there's 3 GMs left, he could still take one of those. I think all 3 of them are supports. Mardox, Silvertalls, Firecarter. They would all be supports. So like he does have that gap.
Chloe.
We still have Chloe.
Yep.
I completely forgot about Chloe. Oh my god.
Ooh, Topaz.
Topaz is in just such this interesting spot for his SR. Like we mentioned, there's the really hard SR sinks and there's the soft SR sinks. And like you have Topaz, you have Wiggle Higgle. I would argue to an extent Flambeau Jambo too. Not as hard SR sinks as like me and War and Cone and Pokemon Guy, but like would make a lot of teams still have a pretty good average SR.
Yep, and again, a rookie this season. I'm not really sure what the play style is, how good they are, but they have a very wide hero pool and they seem very, very competitive. So
I believe
I'm not surprised that they're going for this much money. I think that if let's say Riddle Dog gets this pick.
Yeah.
If you have a team with Riddle, PJ, IGLing you, like telling you, oh, this is the way to go, this is not the way to go, you can bump that 2-7 up to true. Like a 3-1.
Like we mentioned, we were talking about Riddle's team earlier. The fact that it's kind of flat, but you do need someone a little bit below the SR. I think Topaz is in a really good spot because now with that last 5th starter you have, you can go a little bit higher too. Gives you a little bit more flexibility if you do get Topaz here. The only thing is he has 200k left, and if he currently is sitting at 100k for Topaz, so that's a lot of your budget. But again, he's only gonna have 2 players if he does take Topaz here. One thing I do want to mention about Topaz, I don't think he's there anymore, but I was taking a peek at the watch party earlier, and Topaz was there. So
Topaz is in Twitch chat right now.
He's in Twitch
Say
chat?
hello.
I have
Say
too many
hello.
tabs open right now. Hi,
Oh,
Topaz. That's always another good thing I like to look out for during the draft is when you have players that actually show up and watch the draft. That's a sign that they want to be involved in the community. So
Real.
like that's not going to be on any spreadsheets anywhere, but that just kind of means a lot for players to like show up and be involved. You know. Currently 112.
Yeah, Fire jumping in here I think is very interesting because right now
It makes sense.
he is at a place where if he gets Topaz for this price, he has 2 players left.
Yeah.
He is gonna get okay.
He does.
So he gets Topaz for this price. He has 2 players left now. But looking at the team he's already built around himself, he has Moon at 4.1, Foost at 4.7, himself on tank at 4.7. I'm just
3.7.
looking at
Not 4.7.
Oh, there. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
3.7 for all those. Sorry. I'm looking at just
I was
like
about to
numbers
say.
wise. Give him a DPS at 3K
Yeah.
and everything works.
Yeah.
Give him a DPS at 3.2K and everything works even.
I mean, there's still like a lot of DPS that are a little bit lower. Transflect is the first one that comes to mind. So like you put Transflect on that team, that's a pretty solid team.
And yeah, still a lot of veterans in that region too.
That's
that you
true.
can pick
That's
up.
true. Transflect, I think, has been in Aurora since season 1, if I'm not mistaken. He's been here for a while.
All right,
Come
we
Ruben.
have it. Ruben Lagoons.
I have no idea where he's gonna go.
I have a very decent guess on where Ruben's gonna go. A very decent guess.
Yeah.
It may or may not. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm not leaking anything.
Yeah.
I think that he and Milo may want to play together.
Yeah, I know they're very good friends. It's kind of like well known throughout the community. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like if some captains try to be a little aggressive and try to price check him, knowing that Milo probably wants to play with his friend. But I don't know if anyone is actually going to be aggressive enough to pry him away from Milo. Currently 55k. I mean that's still pretty decent.
Yeah.
I was sort of talking about the whole theory of, you know, if everybody knows you want a player, how much are you know,
Like-
how much is that player really going to go for? And it's sort of coming down to what is the threat if you do not get
That's
that
true.
player, right?
Yeah.
Like, or if you end up with that player and you're raising, you know? So
Yeah.
teams, I think, got to assess that and see how much they're willing to, you know, put into a player that they don't know that much.
Yeah, I
So
remember that
somehow-
happened. I know you were present there too, War, but in the war room last season, we had a similar thing. I would say it's quite the exact same thing, but Flambo Jambo was trying to bid
Oh,
up
yup.
Nyanza, and
Yup.
like Nyanza's a good player, and I know Flambo actually would have liked to play with her, but it got to the certain point where the money got really expensive, and Flambo goes like, "Are you gonna actually drop her with me if I keep bidding you up?" And Chloe was like, "Yeah." So you get to the certain point where it's
a really funny story there.
if you get left with a player that you're just trying to price check, it kind of does put a wrench in your plans because then now you have to build around that player too. So
Yep.
it doesn't seem like anyone's gonna scare Milo off here. Milo seems pretty intent on getting room and legumes,
That is a good happy price. For
and
Milo
there it
to take
goes.
there.
I think that's
Very,
fair.
very good, very happy price for Ruben.
Yeah,
I think like the fact that everyone knows that Milo wanted him and Ruben got one for that price.
Yeah.
69k, not that bad at all, and definitely worth the value.
We were just talking about Firestarboss taking a 3K player too. So Firestar's got to be really excited seeing Ruben Legumes only go for about 70k, knowing that Fire has himself 150k to work with and 2 slots. If he is going to look for that 3K player, that still works out really well for Fire. A lot of budget left, a lot of stuff to work around. So Dante Fan comes out. This is another one of those players. I know we mentioned earlier all those like the second tier, I guess, of tanks. Right after Poi and Vend, you got like Poke, you got Fish, you got Dante Fan, Poke. I think I said Poke twice, but
You did say Poke twice.
yeah.
Dire.
Dyer's the other one. So like I could see this guy going for a lot. We already see it bump up to 100k. Kind of interesting coming from Tommy Slack because I think he did sign up as a tank this season.
Dante's a flex, by the way. He's not a tank.
Oh, he's a flex. Oh, that makes so
Yeah.
much more sense.
Yeah.
That's actually really good too.
Yep.
The SR is not going to break the bank, but again, you get this Masters level tank IQ. Should translate over pretty well to tank or DPS and support, and those SRs on those two roles are still really good. So
Yeah, I can't tell if Tommy is. I think these are committal bids because he sent 3 on here, but he tends to like do these like big jump bids in his
Yeah.
draft strategy, and then another person bids over it, and then you don't know if he's gonna like send more or not send more.
so I have some lore. I didn't know this until like about a week ago. Tommy
Okay.
Slat's from BPL. Apparently, there is some BPL draft info sheet where they give you tips on the draft, and I remember one of them is like play to bait other captains or like price check and stuff like that. I'm like, Tommy Slot's probably read this because he's been super involved trying to push these prices up. He's also still sitting at a really good budget, which I think also is a really good strat. So I mean, I think he's showing a lot of confidence, I guess, here in his draft strategy. So
I kind of hope this person Dante doesn't go to Tommy's team kind of, because I think that Tommy can turn around.
that's true. Tommy could have a
another
nasty
player
team.
Yeah, Tommy can have like a very nasty team. I want to see what he cooks here, and Dante is gonna go over to Charbotron's team in addition to Cupcake, and that is a perfect offset DPS.
That's pretty nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Or tank. You can
Yeah.
still put him on tank too. Dante Fan,
Yeah.
tank, Cupcake DPS, Charbotron support. That's a solid core too.
Yep. And
Definitely a steal.
and just I don't know. I haven't I haven't seen Dante Fanfan in any competitive game, but just like playing with him in Pugs is so fun. Like the guy is a viber, and I think that's what a team with like Charbotron and Cupcake,
That's true.
need. It's a vibes guy, and I think that's the guy you want to draft there.
Yeah. I think what are we at now? MuffinLumps gets to put up his player. They gotta put some of these GM players up. They gotta just put one up.
No, you wait, Panini. Okay, anybody who's listening to this
I
stream,
mean-
get a bit of draft strategy
Here
here.
comes
Before the Nathan pick comes up. Before the Nathan pick comes up. If you wait on these players, everybody's budget's getting diluted more and more and more. So getting Fire Carter as the last pick, he's going for maybe like 150k
Yeah.
compared to, if you put him up early, 250k. We
But
saw that with like the juxtaposition between Silvertalls and Seneca last season.
Yeah, but look at
But
it.
Nathan-
The next two teams that put up captains were going to be Muffin here and then Booney next. Like, both of those teams already have their high GM players, so they're not going to actually want these players. So if you just put someone up, get someone to drain their budget on like a Fire Carter, gives you a lot of space to work with later on in the draft.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very possible Tommy is gunning for this one, but like we mentioned, if he just keeps bidding this up, like people like Booney that tossed in a bid, like, are gonna be just.
I could see Invictus seems like he's also kind of intent on going after Nathan. Makes a lot of sense for his team. The comms on that team are going to be crazy. You have Rusty Goomba, Invictus, and Nathan. That's a pretty solid team.
Oh wait, Sonic comes in, but what is Sonic getting Nathan on though? Like you want Nathan on tank,
Maybe he plays Melon DPS.
but if
Oh,
he
you're
plays
right.
Melon DPS,
He has 3 DPS. Yeah. So Melon's
Yeah.
got to be playing tank for the Sea Dragons then. Interesting.
Yep.
I could also see, I guess never mind, with that
Ooh.
70k increase by Invictus. Invictus really wants Nathan. Like I said, I think that's a pretty good fit. I was going to say, getting a player like this would make a lot of sense for EJ, because he still doesn't have his tank player yet. I mean, Poke1236OK is still on the board too, so...
And so is Dyer.
Dyer too. I think Dyer could also be really good.
I'm looking at these teams, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So half the teams don't have a tank after Nathan goes off the board. Half the teams do have a tank.
Interesting. Yeah.
And still a lot of good tanks to go in the draft.
That's true.
A lot of rookies that I'm also looking for, potentially on that tank pick can be big difference makers if you're able to build a good draft around them.
Fire Carter, I know, is kind of known for his support. I think he mainly plays main support. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he plays support mainly. Does still have that 40, I think he's 40-50 on tank, so...
By the way, Nathan off the board, yeah.
Goes to Invictus.
Yep. Yeah, when I saw that 70k jump from Invictus, I was like, everyone's going to probably get scared off by that. Wiggle Higgle!
Great
comes
draft.
out.
So Frosty went for
Amazing draft.
203k. I think Wiggle is going to be right around that, too.
Yeah. Especially in this format, it might be different captains targeting because there is a 2050 SR difference between the two.
Yeah.
but it's a great pick in this SR range. And Vibes guy.
Riddle Dog. Riddle Dog, I think, would be a good fit. Let's see. I think Booney. I mean, Booney still has some space. I think getting a flex support here could be really good for Booney too. Skycer also doesn't have a flex support. Sonic Ronic also doesn't. A lot of teams here, I could see going really hard on Wiggle Higgle here.
I like this specifically for Jack because he wants to be on main support this season.
That's true.
And then Booney because, I mean, with Neptune, you got a lot of money on Neptune, and you have somebody like Wiggle who is silently, every single year, really, really good on the flex support.
My only worry with Wiggle Higgle, I have not done the calcs yet, but I feel like if you're Booney, you want to have a little bit lower SR for that SR sync.
Not necessarily, because if you're Booney and you're turning over about a 3-6 average team, Wiggle Higgle fits in perfectly. Or 3-6 or 3-5 average team for your DPS and your support.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty well.
I don't know what SR Booney was on the sheet, but I was assuming he was 3,500.
3,400.
34. Oh.
Yep.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine then. Like, I do think Riddle Dog actually does get Wiggle Higgle. The Red Pandas reunion with Riddle Dog and Wiggle Higgle.
Oh,
last time these two guys played on a team, they did win the league.
Okay, so now Riddle, with one player left, is now going to be looking either
75K?
for his tank. Wait.
He's got 75K for 2 players.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but so he's either looking for a tank, or he puts himself on tank, and then he's able to splurge a bit on a support. Either option is still good for Riddle.
I think that could be a good move to put himself on a tank here. Wiggle Higgle does play flex support. You also have Riddle Dog, who I'm sure really would prefer playing flex support over main. While we're talking about that, Zip,
my goat.
Former Mr. I can't think of a good nickname for him. Mr. Magic Tiger, is that a good one?
Yep.
The Guangdong is Magic Ringers.
He won a ring on the Magic Tigers. Had a really good season. I think he had best clip last season too.
Yep.
Now Tommy Slat.
That one, yeah.
Tommy Slat's starting to put some money on this guy, and again, he's got so much to work with here. He can get Zinth and still have more budget than any other captain.
And everybody is like thinking about this, you know. They're thinking, oh yeah, draft's still going. We're not even halfway through all the players in this draft.
Yeah.
We have a long way to go. Players have already diluted. Most teams have already diluted like 75 to 50% their budget by now.
Yeah.
Right? Tommy's the only one that hasn't. If he's able to turn over Zinth for anything under 300k with the way that Zinth performed last season, I think that is so valuable.
Yeah, 205 right now for Tommy Slat. If that does go through, that's a really good price. And like he still's got so much SR and so much budget to build around.
And
I
the
think
other
it
team
is
on the other side of
Booney.
things is Booney. Neptune, you on that team. I mean, what do you think a U plus Zinth DPS line would look like?
I mean, I would be very happy with that. Like in my head, I'm already kind of thinking about stuff we could do this season, you know. And I think for this season, I'm gonna be very adamant about what I'm playing on the field, you know.
Yeah, Milo comes out of nowhere. Seemed like it was a 2-man bidding war there, and Milo just out of nowhere with 211k. And again, like Tommy's starting to drop off here. Tommy, if he wanted to match this, he has every possibility to. Like, nothing should be holding him back with 905k.
I'm gonna put it adamantly right here. I think 300k for Zinth is not crazy.
I think that's fair. I could see 250k pretty easily. But I mean, the fact that it's slowing down, kind of surprising here to me.
Yeah. I mean, Tommy
might even come to a halt here soon.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like Tommy really wants to like get into it though.
Yeah, I mean he would have probably bid by now if he was. I'm guessing it's probably Milo is still trying to think about if he's gonna do it or not, because Milo is starting to run out of money here. 214k is a big chunk of his.
But he does have more than Booney. It will go to Booney though.
Zinth goes to the Stur Shanbeltier. So, really nice core here of Booney, Neptune, Zinth. Looking for a support here, I'm sure, but that's a solid team there.
if you're in Booney's shoes, Neptune, one, do you think this is a good draft? And two, like, well, what's the play for the next picks here?
It's just really, I don't know. I'm a firm believer. It's just like we got to see all the pieces on the board.
Yeah.
Like every player matters for sure. So whether it just be like getting AST, getting Elko, getting me, getting any player is just so important to your team. So, but I mean, I'm kind of happy with like what possibilities that I can run, especially if we're a DPS duo.
Why you know dad comes out. I like EJ's still looking for this tank. I'm not sure exactly how the SR is going to work out right now, but like why you know dad, I've heard really good things about him. I know he swapped over from console recently, so his SR might be a little bit lower than he deserves to be at. EJ's still looking for a tank. He genuinely, the fact that it's still at 1K, he might just get why you know dad for free.
And if he does,
There's
that's
5K.
an insane steal. I think this might just be a price check from Sonic.
I agree.
Sonic already has this like set up. I don't know how much you price check on a player like Why You Know Dad, and I think this is a really good draft for EJ because it allows him to get a 3-2K support to complement him, or potentially even like a little bit better 3-2, 3-3K support there. So I would see EJ be willing to go in at least up to like 50K on this, just to like 50K, 60K on this, just to like fight for this rookie player who has a lot of upside.
Like just thinking about EJ right now, he has 300K left. The fact that it looks like it's going to slow down well before 100K means that EJ with his last two players is going to have 200K left over. So if he does keep fighting for Why You Know Dad here, he could have like all the money to work with going for his last two players. Oh, right, 50K.
Yep.
I mean, this kind of makes me think about some of the other tanks that are going to come off. You have people like Nort, for example, who is a Diamond SR tank. It's like, how much is he going to go for? Paige is 2,600 and wants to play tank this season. I don't know how much she's going to go for. The fact that he's already this cheap is kind of crazy.
I think it's just price check from Tommy Slap.
I agree.
Not
like,
sure.
Yeah.
Tommy Slap has the money
Tommy
to price check. Like,
I think Tommy is like really price checking a lot of these players, and like I said, I don't know. I'm just so excited to see like his master scheme kind of unfold here. And like, are we seeing Why You Know Dad, come in for his master scheme?
I mean,
Maybe.
again, too, like, Tommy Slot has so much money, like, he can kind of build whatever he wants to. He could get Why You Know Dad and get...
He does need a 7-player roster here, too.
And then...
At this point in the draft, it's still fine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, I'm thinking about it, too. It's like, if you get Why You Know Dad, sub it out for himself, you could put... Tommy Slot could put himself on, like, DPS or support, and then you can just draft, like, Silvertalls or Fire Carter. You have the SR because you're getting Why You Know Dad for 30-50. I think that... I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Tommy Slot get Why You Know Dad here.
Yep. But the bidding is going to... Oh, Tommy goes in again here. I'm liking the argument you have about flexibility there, because I think Tommy's really looking for this, like... he has the option to put himself on tank, but he also has an option to put himself on support as well. And I think that's a very, maybe slept on pick, because... Oh, Muffin!
Muffin!
What I was saying with Tommy on support is very slept on pick, because I think he's always considered like the sixth man of the Sayori's. He was not the sixth man.
That's true. Yeah.
He was vital in, like, when we needed him, where we needed him. His pool is great, and on support, on tank, he was flexible for us there on both.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. If anything, we can blame me for the cops that I was like conducting, and just like having better placements for him. Like something Warren and I were talking about when we were playing Fortnite. It's like, maybe we could have had Tommy on Koth. Would have been way better for our team.
Yeah. This is some crazy investment here.
It's like this is
into Why You Know Dad. Do I not? I think there's something I don't know here.
It's
I think
crazy.
Why You Know Dad may be the value pick player of the season.
It's crazy to me too that this is like going on so long. It's like no one really wants to go all in on Why You Know Dad. But yeah, he's another player that is from Mankato State, the varsity team, I think. I think I'm trying to remember his hero pool. I think he is pretty flexible. And again, he swapped over from console, so he might be kind of cheap for his SR might be cheap for his actual value, I guess, is the way I'm trying to say that. But and it looks like he is going to EJ's team, which I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's kind of where I thought he was going the whole time, but a little bit more than I thought he was going to go for. The way it was starting to slow down early like that, but I think EJ, like, still with that much money, still really good.
Tommy's about to feast.
Tommy,
Yeah.
dude, Tommy is feasting. Tommy is 100% feasting,
So-
because if you're drafting in a point of every single
Yeah.
other player, you're thinking, I need 2 more players, I need 3 more players. In some cases, I even need 5 more players for
Yeah.
some other teams, right? And I have this much budget this close to it, so I'm thinking, like, 100K here, 120K here, 130K here. Well, Tommy, just drop 150K on every single player you want, and you're perfectly fine.
Let's
And
go.
I think this is Tommy's time right here.
Yeah.
I think he's stepping up to the plate.
So now we get to see how much, like we mentioned earlier, people aren't going to be able to spend as much money on Mardox here. So I'm sure Tommy Slat is going to get Mardox for cheaper than he deserves to go for.
Oh, there it is.
But how much is he actually going to go for? Sonic Ronic also, I just realized, does not have support, so Mardox would be a pretty good one to get on support there. Does raise some questions about the SR, though. If Sonic Ronic does get Mardox, I'm sure the SR is going to be really weird, but...
SR sinks.
Yeah.
We're going to come into play,
You're-
Paninii.
Surely. I'm surprised neither of us have gotten put up yet. They put up Cone, they put up Topaz. Flambeau Jambo, I guess, also hasn't been put up yet.
Yeah. I'm kind of intrigued. Here. It's a big jump for Mardox. But
Yeah.
I've heard some really amazing things about Mardox on the support. I've even heard some people saying he's like a top 3 support in this draft. So
No, Muffin's
going in,
price
Muffin
checking,
going in
surely.
on this. Yeah, surely. It's a price check, but even if he ends up with Murdochs, you swap Raz
So-
over to the DPS, and you can still get a
That's-
very good
that's
carry tank in a Yoda or in a Poke or in a Dire.
So,
Some players that are still left on the board.
one thing I do want to point out real quick, too, is where the budget, or where the price is right now. At 275, if Muffin was not bidding it up, it would have stopped at 275. Like, half of the teams can't even raise 275 either. So Muffin, even if Muffin doesn't actually want Mardox and is just price checking, that's still a really good move by him, because now you're 75K extra Tommy Slat's having to pay for. Does seem like it's
Also-
slowed down.
Big shout out for Wrecked Cactus for the awareness to put up Mardox here. I think
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
play at this point in time in the draft.
Yeah, if you're anyone
Dude.
in Captain right now, like, I think you're just putting up players that, like, you kind of really don't mind letting go,
Yeah.
right?
I like that strat because you are kind of diluting the other team's budget. Mardox does go over to the Purple Apes and Tommy Slat. For honestly, I still think that's a pretty good price. Now, but now you're looking at Moon at 305K. I think those are
I
two
don't-
they're
yeah.
close enough that it probably isn't too bad. But like, I still think
I-
that's a pretty good price for him.
I was just about to say, I question Tommy's, like, price check on himself. He usually drops that, like, he drops the characteristic Tommy, just, like, big budget, put in this
Yeah.
player, let's see it happen.
There's Sanemi.
Oh, here comes Sanemi. But I kind of wish he would, like, with the players he actually wanted, he would slow down with the initial bidding, make sure captains, like, really have the time to think, okay, do I really want to go this high? Maybe make
Yeah.
them second guess themselves, get some doubt in their mind to allow him to get these players for a bit lower on budget.
Yeah. Just kind of like, what's the word? Kind of using your, not body language, but kind of like, the not disclosing it vocally. I can't think of the word I'm trying to use.
Can I just go aura here?
Aura. That's a good word for it.
Aura,
Using
yeah.
You're using the aura that you don't want to necessarily put a ton of money on this guy, scaring other captains off. And then now we see Sanemi start to jump up here for his SR. He's another one of those players that, like, I could see going for a pretty decent amount too. I was surprised to see it kind of slow down at 10K, but this is much more realistic for Sanemi. Again, Tommy Slat and MuffinLumps, I think by far are the 2 highest budgets left. So I mean, both of these players could put a ton of money on Sanemi.
Yeah.
Knowing they
Jack
have-
is a secret person waiting in the wings here, and he's
Yeah.
waiting for the perfect opportunity. And I think that perfect opportunity for him has not come up yet, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I like waiting here if I'm Jack.
But it is starting to climb up there. Like, if we get past 200K, it's gonna really bring down Tommy Slat's initial 905K down to a paltry 300 something. Again, the three players that I think have the most budget are 7-man teams. The most budget for a 6-man team is Charbotron. So, I mean, that actually is starting to look pretty good for Charbotron too. 455K between 3 players is pretty good. I think
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think she's gonna have her pick later on in the draft.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Oh, I was like, what the? Is that me?
Well, yeah, one of the things I like about Sanami is I think a rookie last season, obviously, and I think he really went under the radar as a scary DPS on the Aligatos, a team that had to deal with roster changes, had to deal with losing 2 arms throughout the season. You kind of need those to play Overwatch, and I think that the fact that
the arms
they had
too.
a lot of turmoil, they had a lot of turmoil on their team, is causing somebody like Sanami, who maybe got a bit overshadowed by Cal, to go under the radar here. I think he's a DPS that can definitely match the skill level of players like Cupcake for 300.
Yeah, there he goes officially
for Pneumonia, but getting him for 201 is quite a steal for Tommy.
I agree. I think that's really good, especially when he was going so hard for wait, I'm already forgetting who was just put up. Mardox, yeah. That's a solid core there. You get your tank, your DPS, and your support. Sanami, I remember Flambeau Jambo saying before, right after he drafted Sanami, he was like, I didn't know a lot about this guy, but I saw his hero pool said Tracer and it said Sojourn. So, I feel like, here he is, Fire Carter! I feel like Tracer players like Sanami, it's like Tracer's always going to be good, so just having that ability to throw someone on Tracer's good, so. Fire Carter, I think, I don't know. I was doing all my mock drafts, and I was like, I have no idea where this guy's going to go. Looking at how everyone's starting to shape out here, I mean, who even has the SR for it? Charbotron, Invictus,
Fire Carter,
EJ could be good.
I just want to say, if Fire Carter goes to Tommy's team, he can just he has 4 players who are pushing the GM level.
Yeah.
For skill.
Wait, you think he's gonna go to Tommy's team?
He could, I think.
Oh my god, they would need a
the
Pokemon guy.
Dude, I had this joke at the start of the draft that I made, and it was me when I accidentally draft 3 GMs, and it's just a picture of Gengar, and it says the Pokemon guy time. I think that's the perfect time to just throw him in there,
I mean, Rex Cactus is jumping in here too. Looking at the SR, I believe Code would be a good enough SR sync to offset Poi and Fire Carter. That would be a crazy team there if he's able to get that. Got 250K now from Tommy Slat. He still has plenty of budget to work with, and that's a scary team. He's going to have to really go for one of those really low SR. There it is, officially. Tommy Slat gets 2 GMs. And I believe that's going to be a support line, too. I think both the players are going to play support. So I genuinely could be a Pokemon guy moment.
By the way, when you have this team and you put Pokemon guy on DPS, just theoretically, you have a 3-4-8-0 team. You're 220 under the SR sync with those players in.
3480?
That is...
Ooh. But the problem...
2480 team, it's a 4 GM team, in my opinion, an effective 4 GM team. That you can play it like it's a 4 GM team. You have the swap between Tommy and Fire if you want to have it as well. Yeah. Which is deadly.
The only thing I'm thinking about this team, Tommy is going to have 7 players, so you need 2 players on the bench. He could just go for DPS players just to swap out for Sonami. I think that would probably make the most sense, or swap out for himself even. But yeah, that would raise some questions. If he does get someone like Pokemon guy, it kind of you're gonna have to pretty much run Pokemon guy in every map if you have Fire Carter and Mardox in. Now I believe
Met, by the way.
The fact that Chloe is still no one's put up Chloe yet is also really crazy. I think Chloe technically signed up for support. But she's one of the players I think would probably be willing to play anything. And in terms of the role they signed up for, again, Chloe did sign up as Tracer. Chloe's Tracer has the potential to be one of the best in the leagues, and it's just not. No one's put it up yet. Silvertall's also a really good flex support.
Is she the only GM left, right?
Silvertall's and Chloe are the last two, I believe. I don't have the sheet in front of me right now, but Met now gets put up, another one of those kind of like mid-masters DPS, so still going for quite a bit. I was expecting the market just being so heavy with these like 36, 37, 3800 DPS players that they'd be kind of cheaper, but still going for quite a bit here. Would make a lot of sense here for Milo. Getting Ruben Legumes and Met DPS line, Vind on tank. I could see this being a pretty solid core there.
And I'm kind of still not seeing the cook for Sonic kind of care.
I know.
DPS player. Like, what's the... It could just be budget raising, but what's the comp? You know? You have a 6-man team. You don't need, like, too many subs.
Yeah.
You don't want to break the budget.
I think part of this, too. If I'm Sonic Ronic, it might be him doing a read. Like we mentioned earlier, that the aura. The fact that Milo is instantly raising Sonic whenever he raises himself means that Milo really wants Met. If Milo slowed down, maybe that would scare Sonic off. I think Sonic is just price checking this. And it looks like it works. Going from 90k to 155k is crazy. Like that's a big jump there. I think it's gonna send here. I think that's probably official. There it goes. Yeah, Met goes for 155k to the Tokyo Zillas.
And Met, somebody who was looking like Rookie of the Year candidate last season.
That's true.
Like, has a synergy with Milo. I think that is a banger pick, and now all Milo needs is an SR sync, but it doesn't have to be like an insane SR sync.
Yeah,
here,
I mean, you have Ruben.
He already has Ruben on the starting lines.
Yeah, that team is gonna be so vibes. Like, not gonna lie, I think all those players are really chill, really nice people. So that'll be a fun team to play on, the Tokyo Zillas.
Let's see who's going next.
Just, I'm trying to remember. I keep trying to remember who is next to like put up players, and I can't. I don't remember who started. It gets cut off at the bottom, so I don't see it anymore.
No, we don't know who goes for who.
Again, like I'm still just trying to think about in terms of the SR, like who would be able to get a player like Chloe or a player like Silvertalls. I mean, if Sonic Ronic is able to get like Silvertalls or even Silvertalls or Chloe on support, like that's a Sonic Ronic needs a support. Skycer also needs a support too, so that would be pretty interesting too to see him go out after one of those. I think those are the only two players that don't have a set support yet.
Speaking
And here's comes
Booney.
Yeah.
Booney could be. I don't know if Booney will be able to afford that, but like, yeah, SR wise, Booney would be kind of higher in too. But 1K, it's taken a while to update, I'm sure, but. Riddle, I am sure, does not want Silvertalls, is because the SR is going to be really tricky if you get Silvertalls here. I think it would be slightly over with Wiggle Higgle. There we go. Starts to jump up there. There is no way Tommy Slat gets 3 GMs. There is no way.
I mean, he can't even fit that, but
Yeah.
I mean, the rotations will be deadly.
I mean, like I said, Sonic Ronic
Wait,
starting to come
Tommy
into.
Slat didn't even have that much money. What the heck?
Interesting.
What? Whatever. I mean, they're over it anyway.
Source, trust me, bro.
Trust
There it
me, bro.
is. There it is.
Tommy's cooking. Yeah.
So like Sonic Ronic, this would make a lot of sense. He still has 350k, only needs 3 players. If he's able to get Silvertalls, who's like this insane flex support, could be like a really good position for him to be in.
Yeah, I think the Sydney Sea Dragons were bidding on a lot of people, raising them up, and there was people who didn't fit well on their team.
Oh.
Silvertalls fits well on that team. Great
That's
pick
crazy.
for the side of the Siege Dragons and Sonic Chronic here. And now, looking at this team, you got Melon on tank, Sonic, Sky, Silvertalls. What you're gonna need for your final player is you're looking for a 2.9 deep or support player.
Support.
And there you got a couple people you can look at in that range right now.
I'm trying to think. I know Flambeau Jambo is left. It might be Flambeau Jambo and then just a huge jump between like the 2200s. Interesting.
Topaz is already gone.
Topaz is gone. Yep.
And then
I guess
Ruben's
that's it.
already gone.
Ruben, Paige,
Muffin's a
but Paige is
captain.
wants to play tank.
That could be good though. That could be a cook.
Yeah, but the problem is, I guess that you could move Melon around, but yeah, Poke coming out now too. I could see Poke going multiple teams. Floppas start to bid up Poke. Now Poke I think could fit really well in the Floppas too. Is you get Poke tank, PJ Shoreline Pie DPS, and then Wiggle support. I think that is under SR, but that would be like that would be a solid team. Sonic Ronic bidding them up too. I know Sonic Ronic
Everybody
and Poke
wants
go
a
back.
piece. We have
Yeah.
nobody who's bid twice. I mean, finally now, Muffin jumps in twice,
So-
and I think I gave this a shout out mid draft, and I think
Yeah,
that
would be good. Looking at
yeah.
their roster right now, you'd have
That's
Poke
amazing.
tank, Fedora DPS, and then MuffinLumps Razzmatazz support. That could be a solid team there too. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at some of these the tier 2 of tanks. You get Poke, you get Dire, you get Yoda.
If Poke goes for this money, this one's money that's insane.
Yeah.
By the way.
Like, how much
That's
is Yoda gonna go
insane.
for?
Okay, finally Invictus jumps in here.
Yeah, I mean, Invictus. Well, he has Nathan. I don't know if Invictus is gonna want to have Poke and Nathan because they'll kind of play the same things. He might just be price checking this too. Or honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see Invictus play Poke on support. Like, we saw him on the Brawlers, the Berlin Brawlers. Poke had a really good Baptiste. And looking at the rest of his team, like, you have Nathan on tank, you have Rusty Goomba, Invictus. You could put them on DPS, for example, and then you just have Poke on flex support. That could be really good. Now we're starting to get up there. It does seem like Invictus does not want to give up Poke here. Charbotron also sneaks in there, too. That Poke would be another really good fit on Charbotron's team. Charbotron does have Dante Fan, who is flexible, but I think is going to prefer to play the tank. But that does just kind of open up some possibilities to switch your team around if you do draft a Poke here.
Invictus going in on this is interesting because he does already have the Nathan.
I know.
think that this
That's
is
what I'm wondering.
definitely- Yeah.
You think it's
Best
price checking or
or-
you think?
Too. Like you
Might be price checking.
Yeah. But I mean, again, he is kind of like putting up these bids right after another captain raises him. So that seems to me to read like he really wants it, and he does get Poke for 200K. So I'm really curious what he's cooking here. But that's a really interesting lineup there. I'm very curious to see what he does with that.
So yeah, Poke is not eligible to play DPS. Nathan
Yeah.
is though eligible to play DPS. If you put
Maybe.
Poke on tank, you have Invictus, Nathan, DPS
And then
line.
Rusty
We know
support.
how crazy value. Rusty support, you have a 3-6 average, so you can just get like a solid 3K.
I could
Final
see.
player on support.
Now that I'm
Chill.
thinking about it, I think Flambeau Jambo might go for a lot of money here. It's like,
Yep.
because we're talking about the SR sinks, like the really hard ones would be really good for a team like Tommy Slat, who has 2 GMs. Getting someone like me, War Pokemon guy, I think those are like the harder SR sinks, but then you have like a big gap between getting to Flambeau Jambo at 2600. Wiggle's already off the board, Topaz is already off the board. I think people are going to look at Flambeau Jambo and be like, this is kind of like the last guy in this range that we need. So people might pay a lot of money to go for that.
Also, the other thing I'm thinking, players that are continually
Here comes
going
Yoda.
late here
Yeah.
are going to be able to make like a. There's still a lot of high DPSs left. There's still a lot of high supports left, and there's still
That's
a lot
true.
of low supports left specifically. SR sinks are going to be the name of the game for these next drafts,
Yeah.
but I think Yoda is going to be one of the ones that are pre-SR sync ideology. You want this player because he is so good on tank.
I'm right
He's
now.
also pretty good on DPS too.
Right now, I'm kind of looking at Jack and looking at Muffin. Both those teams don't have tanks yet. I think all of the other teams at least have someone that can play tank. AST Design is the other one. I'm not 100% sure about if they're going to play him DPS or tank. But yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing. We see MuffinLumps and Jack kind of having this bidding war here for Yoda, especially for his SR. I think this guy is super good value. When the man-on-man team where he was playing Rhine only, he's one of the best Rhines in the league, I would say. Has that aura. I think he's got some of the biggest Chad aura in the league. I love this guy. He's great. And the fact that they're kind of still relatively low, I was expecting it to be for 200K. As I say that, Quantico Quails raised it to 200K.
Yep.
I could see it
And
going for
Yoda-
around that.
Yeah, Yoda's somebody who's valued for SR. It kind of seems like Jack is just cooking up Team Japan, by the way.
I know.
The
Yeah, I know.
OW
That's what I
Olympics.
thought, too.
Hey, Flambeau Jambo's still on the board, guys. War is still on the
Yup.
board.
Yup, that's what I'm saying.
I can't remember who else is on that team. Invictus is the other one. So I guess
Cactus, unfortunately. we
Invictus
cannot
and Rect you can't get, yeah.
get. Yup.
But I mean, it does seem like Muffin really wants Yoda. Again, I think that's a pretty good fit there. Barely misses out on Poke, but you are able to get Yoda. I got to be happy with that if I am the Kappa. Like this is a solid core right here.
And it will go over to the Kappa.
Yeah.
And now Muffin, with 4 players, already has a solid sync in himself. He's looking to get a
Probably 3.6.
5 DPS or a 5.5 DP or 5 DPS. But I think that there's still a few people in that area that they can pick up, and they can round off a good team.
Yeah. The only thing I'm kind of worried about with that team is like what's your bench gonna look like? Like you can probably get a player like a Allegro or Tanic B, both of which I think are 3,500 exactly, but unless you either have someone like Pollux, maybe I think is 2,800, you can get someone like that to sub in, but you're kind of gonna run out of players that are below your team's SR to sub in and out for. So I am kind of curious what they are gonna do with those last couple slots there. There's Aurora, there's Chloe. Now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like Nort would be a good fit on the Kappa. I'm gonna call that right now. I feel like because you have players like I would say another thing you can do too is sub out Yoda for a lower SR tank. Since again we do have so many tanks there, I think that could make a lot of sense too.
I think that a team right here is gonna make their team off of Chloe, and this is gonna be what decides like if they win the league or lose the league, how much they get Chloe for.
Who is left that
Chloe
has
has been,
SR?
in my opinion, like gone for an insane amount some seasons, and gone for a really cheap amount some seasons, and made some teams insanely good. So if you can get Chloe with a really good sync, and you already have that foundation, like the players that are betting on him right now, Booney's team has
Booney
Neptune,
goes all in.
Xin. Charbotron
Charbotron, I think,
is
is a good.
money, and
Charbotron
also
makes
has
sense.
also has Cupcake already. The compliments that you can get with Chloe are insane.
Yeah, I think
And same with
Charbotron's
Rectactus
team makes
with
sense.
Poi.
The only thing I was gonna say about Rectactus's team is if you get Chloe and you get Poi, you're gonna kind of run out of SR. But they already got Konecho for 50k. So you have like this really cheap SR sync. I think he's low enough that you can run Rect Cactus, Poi, Allura, and Cone and still have a pretty good 5th player there too.
Doing some of the math on that, that is correct. Yes, you can get a like 293k is the sort of the region you're looking for there.
Yeah. 293k, and then you'd probably get a DPS. Interesting.
I want to check something because this may be crazy for the Charbotron stomps. By the way, legal team: Allura on tank, Cupcake, Dante Fan on DPS, Charbotron Nutty on support. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but legal
Interesting.
team.
Would it be too high SR to run Dante Fan tank and Allura DPS or Allura support?
Dante Fan tank would be too.
Might be a little bit too high. Yeah.
Yes, but that's what the 6th person is for.
Interesting.
On every single team, like if you have a
Oh,
single
you could
problem,
sub in.
your 6th person can solve that on every single team, and you can have still a really good team that is built to complement that 6th person. If you're in the chat right now and you haven't gone yet, do not be worried because you can be insanely valuable to a lot of these teams.
Okay. Wait,
as
now
a sub or not even as a sub.
it's gonna go to Charbotron. Rect Cactus has run out of money. It's a 4k min bid. It's a 4k min bid, guys. Rect Cactus can't bid 303. There it is. They're fixing it. Let's go. They caught it. I was like, admins, please. So I think that is probably going to be the last one, is Rect Cactus has run out of money. That would have been an insane team. Is Chloe Poi? Oh, that'd have been crazy.
Also,
And-
sorry chat and sorry cast, but I have to go to bed for work tomorrow morning.
Aw, we'll miss you, Neptune. Yo, Neptune, any final words you want to say?
Excited for the new season, and let's get drafting still. All right. Good luck.
Alrighty.
To everyone that's still doing it.
Have
There
a
we
nice
go.
night and great luck on your team. It's looking great so far, and I'm excited for you to wake up and
Yeah,
we're gonna have a
see
great
y'all
chat
around
about
the
this.
game.
Yeah.
All right. Peace out, y'all.
Bye.
Peace out.
So yeah, I mean, Turbotron still has 165k left. That's crazy. Let me flip this over there. There we go. But yeah, like that's a crazy team so far for Charbotron. That could be a really good team.
Yes, and Aurora is Chloe, by the way. Just
Yes.
There's been a few funny name changes there. There've been some shenanigans with the name, but
So we got Spartan coming out.
that is Chloe.
This guy is another player that I think would fix a lot of teams' SR. He is like kind of this like sweet spot in terms of the plat diamond. Is willing to play anything. Like this could fit on a lot of teams here. Especially some of those teams like maybe the Floppas. Like I know they have Wiggle Higgle, but you can have Spartan Kako be that sub player. You can sub him and Wiggle. And still like have that you could have that sixth player there.
Yep, and I think that Spartan, like, just based off the roles they're, trying to sign up for here, I think is going to get really undervalued. The SR speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that, if you're going for 1K here,
That's crazy.
it's crazy.
It's
10K.
10K.
Sorry.
That's still like
It's
that's still crazy.
It's crazy. And that's going to round out a composition. That's going to round out the first 5-man, right?
Yep.
This is the
Yep.
first team that has been.
Oh, that's gonna be a good sub opportunity too. Is Ruben and Spartan? I think they're like pretty much the exact same SR on DPS, so
Yep,
could
and
run that.
Right now, this team is sitting at 3-4-7-0.
Ooh,
So
nice,
looking great
nice.
on SR, even if you have the Milo on support, Spartan on support, Ruben on DPS.
HV Sec, I think he is like a great player not only for his SR, but I think his SR is in such a good spot. Some of the players that aren't able to get like a 3500 SR player are able to get HV Sec. I know we've mentioned a couple of them so far that are looking for 3500, 3550 DPS players here. HV Sec not only is like that great SR to work with, I also think he's super valuable, but he also can flex over to support. He's flexed over to support multiple seasons now. So I think he is one of the more versatile, quote-unquote, low SR players at 3,400. The fact that only a couple seasons ago, when he was on the tardigrades, his calc SR was 4K even. So crazy value in my opinion. I think this guy's going to be a super good pickup for anyone that gets him. Currently going to Boonies so far.
Booney and
There we go.
Jack jumps in
Jack,
the mix.
Jack
Oh,
would
yep,
make
there he
a
is.
lot of sense. That would make a lot of sense.
Jack's just been the new sleeping giant. He's been the new Tommy Slat here. He's just been
Yeah.
chilling out, biding
So-
his time, and now it's gonna sneak up here. Muffin jumps in as well.
I think if you're gonna call someone the new Tommy Slat, you gotta say Skycer. Skycer got Elko like third pick and just has not done anything since then. He's cooking something.
That's true, yeah.
He's cooking something, and I think a lot of the players that he wanted to go after just haven't been put up yet. So
By the way, HV looks great on Muffin's team. Like great. You get the 3-4-7-0 SR, so 30 under
nice.
the SR cap, and you got two players who are very good on DPS, a very good tank, and a backline that I think is consistent. That team also is gonna bring some vibes too, which I like.
Yeah. HV. Speaking of the tardigrades, HV second Fedora have played. I think they played together in the Foxes the season after that too. So
Yep.
they both have some synergy there. Played together quite a bit. Yeah, I think Jack is not going to go down without a fight here, though.
Yep. I mean, Jack and HV on the same team is some duo synergy that I love to see.
That was another duo on the tardigrades there, too. So it's looking like one of the tardigrades duos will be reunited here. I know there's a big deal, too. I'm going to be kind of disappointed if Jack does not go really hard after HV, because I know that in the Olympics, when there was the draft, Jack really wanted HV and took he waited one pick too long to take HV, so then EJ took him, and HV, I don't think we'll ever forgive Jack for that Olympic shenanigans that happened.
I
So-
just want to say the HV is officially gone to Jack's team. Gone for
The
a
Foxians.
good price in
That's
my
a
opinion.
great price.
And I just got the DM from both players. They're very happy that this
Yeah.
came through.
Yeah, I think that also is like a pretty good, like so far, I think that's going to be some really good vibes there on the Foxy ends. You got Jack, Akua, HV Sec. It's going to be a fun, chill, goofy team.
And like, I'm not trying to lead into anything, but
Yeah.
thinking about Jack's next picks, he still has the most budget out of anybody.
That's
Still.
crazy.
And he is able to alpha up a good DPS or a good tank
Yeah.
for that much money, and
We still got
be able
like
to round
Dyer.
out a great 4-man.
Dyer's still coming up too, so don't sleep on Dyer.
Agreed. But Muffin's got the next pick, missed out on HV, which I think he's gonna be a bit sad about.
Yeah,
but
probably-
I like the conservative money spending here, especially because he does have the third biggest budget. Yeah.
Tuki Pook.
I like-
This is gonna. I think
Fits.
he is gonna fit in Muffin the exact same place, but he is a little bit higher SR on DPS and has a little bit more flexibility than HV. So I think honestly, Muffin putting him up, I wouldn't be surprised to see Muffin going really hard for Tuki Pook here. Again, that would be a pretty solid team. You get Yoda, Tuki Pook, Fedora, MuffinLumps, Razzmatazz. That would be solid. And now we got Purple Apes back in. They do only have 130k left, so I don't know if they're actually going to want to take Tuki Pook for 100k, but definitely the price check's coming in. And EJ coming up here with 110k. Let's see, I'm looking at... Oh, Sonic Ronic might take Tuki Pook to play support here, or even play tank. Again, that flexibility is not to be understated with some of these, especially mid-masters players. Getting that big flexibility can go a long way in some of these teams.
Tuki Pook is interesting. Tuki Pook doesn't fit on Sonic's team the way I assumed, with like the Melon tank and the Silver Tall's DPS.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see he's jumping out of this. But for EJ, for Muffin, and for Wrecked Cactus, those are three teams that have really good, really good spot for Tuki Pook that fits perfectly within the SR.
Yeah. I'm looking at some of these teams here too. Who do you think is going to be the first team that is done bidding?
If I'm thinking about who's going to be the first team that finishes bidding, it is very dependent on how, like, the players that they're going to go for
Yeah.
are perceived in the draft. I would not be surprised if it was the Zillas. They're pretty close right now. I would also not be surprised if you see Charbitron just like start picking up the pace with her next two picks.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she has that locked down. She's been looking very committed on these picks.
Yeah, that's a good point too, as I haven't seen her doing a lot of price checking, but when she gets players that she wants, she will go really hard on them. But are you saying, like, you think that they kind of know who they want for their last two players, or are they just going to kind of take whoever comes up?
I think they have a really good idea about who they want for their next two players.
Yeah. EJ's starting to go in on Tuki Pook too. Perfect 1-for-1 for Pneumonia. I'm not sure if the SR works on what exactly Tuki would be playing if he is starting, but I know that he is the exact same SR on DPS as Pneumonia. I'm sure you can whip up the calc real quick here, but
I can whip up the calc real quick.
it does look like Tuki will be going to EJ's team, the Ramshackle Boosters.
On EJ's team, what we're looking at here is a 10 SR off the cap team with Why You Know Dad on tank, Pneumonia Casey Dunn on DPS, and then EJ Tuki Pook support. So, about average team overall, with Why You Know Dad is like a technical
Yeah.
team, but this is not a sync team at all. This is a mid SR team that is like...
So are you saying that it's 10 over or 10 under?
Oh, sorry, 10 under. My
Under,
it's,
okay.
It's a good team. Yeah.
You said 10 off, and I was like, oh, that's over? No, we're good. Okay.
Assume it's under. I assume most of these players have
Yeah.
done their math. And
Yeah. Dyer, here he goes.
It's Dyer.
This could be a let me see.
Quail, Foxian.
Well, Skyster's probably going to play tank. I think Skyster's going to play tank.
Oh, yeah.
If AST is playing DPS, it could go to the Slouchers. That could be a good move there. You could also do the Foxians. They need a tank too.
The issue on the Slouchers is I think then you're looking for... Oh, you just get a Sing.
Yeah.
Don't you? Oh no, the Sinks are weird. You get Flambeau Jambo as a Sink for that team, and it looks okay. But the sixth player is a question mark if Dyer goes there, but Dyer's still like a really good choice.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you can get someone like Nort, who's just like you might have to get a little bit lower in terms of SR, but you can just still get another player that you can just slot in 1-for-1 on like tank or DPS on that team. I think there's still a decent amount of. I'm trying to think which DPS are left. Tanic B Allegro. God, it's so hard to do it without that. I just need to pull up the thing in front of me. We do see Jack. We do see Jack going after Dyer here.
This is the synergy from Jack's
the
team 2
Numbies.
seasons ago. The Numbies, yes.
This would make a lot of sense here. Again, they are still looking for that DPS player, or that not DPS, the tank player. So that would make a lot of sense. If he does go to the Slouchers, that kind of signals to me that AST is going to play DPS, and the Slouchers might get Dyer for tank. Makes me kind of wonder, though, what their support line would look like, because that would still be a pretty solid team in terms of their tank and DPS. They do have Frosty. I don't know if Frosty is going to be a hard enough SR sync if you have Yak, AST design DPS, and Dyer tank, so they might have to look for me, you, or Flambeau Jambo for that last spot.
Flambeau is actually going to be too low, and I also think that Flambeau will be too expensive in that position, especially if a Yak's trying to design a 7-man team. We know who he is for a fact, right? You need a 3K support, a bit under a 3K support, like a 2-9 support to fill that role.
That would make sense.
As we were saying, there's not many good players there.
Yeah, and now that I'm surprised if Topaz would have gone later, I think Topaz would have been insanely expensive. I'm kind of surprised he went so early.
I think it's good awareness to whoever put him up, especially if that's the person.
I think the Foxians does make a little bit more sense for Dyer.
Agreed.
But I mean, big 26K?
All in?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. It's going to Jack. I'm surprised Yak did not do that earlier, is just to go all in.
Slow raise if you think you can build
I
around
guess.
it.
I guess.
I'm kind of like, I was kind of worried if that went to Yak's team though.
Yeah.
Because then Yak would have
be kind of awkward. Yeah.
Like, and we've seen crazy strategies like that where you bid all your money and you have 1 player left, but with 3 players left in getting that.
Yeah.
I think that's absurd.
So what does Jack have left? He's got 1 more starter left. He has his tank, he has his DPS, and then he has a flex support.
Flex support.
Yeah.
And I think there's 1 person that fits that bill extraordinarily well. The issue that's going to pop up is I think another team may be waiting in the wings for that player.
Interesting.
But potentially a Team Japan showdown.
Interesting.
A little bit. For any of the true fans in chat.
But yeah, I'm not sure the exact SR that he has left, but I would guess it's probably around 3K for Jack.
It's more like it's not 3K. It's more like 2.6K.
Interesting.
I'm not naming names, you know? Names don't need to be named.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense for him to get someone. Toast coming out now, too. I think we might have woken the sleeper agent. Well, I think there are a couple teams that are building around Toast, but taking a while to go in there. Like, Toast, very flexible. Masters Diamond on all rolls, so I think I could see this guy going for another pretty penny here. EJ puts 30K, Booney puts 40K. Not only would Toast be a good flex support, but at least I think he plays flex support. He'd be a good support to pick up here. Again, looking at some of those players, I just keep using Nord as an example because he's one of the ones I know that is below the budget. You can just get someone like Nord or Toast and just sub them in and out for someone because the budgets would still work perfectly fine. Sonic Ronix putting 90K on Toast now, up to 100K from Firestarboss. I was expecting this guy to go a lot more, but it does seem like it is starting to slow down here.
Yep, I think that Toast is a good solution for like a lot of teams who like need that.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you slotted him onto a mid SR team, he'd just like fit perfectly and allow for like the carry players to pop off.
I'm
Additionally, like NAU player has a
Yeah.
lot of experience in a lot of tournaments. I think that goes a long way, just flat out.
Yeah, Milo's coming back. Could be looking for a 6th player here. So we'll see
I'm
if
realizing that Milo has like 120k to drop on, or 115k to drop on 2 players.
Yeah,
Budgeting
that's
goes
pretty
crazy
good.
for Milo, and I don't want to say I think I know he got the team that he was definitely looking at, and it looks like Toast will go over to the Cuppa, and that will slot into
Interesting.
DPS perfectly, I believe.
Oh, is it for DPS? I was assuming he was
Yep.
going to play support, but I think for the SR probably would work a little bit better with a lot of these teams. Again, we don't have a lot of those like low diamond, high plat DPS players, so makes a lot of sense to go to that team. You get the Cuppa now have their 6-man or their 5-man roster right now, so looks pretty good so far. 2 more players, 178k left for that, so that's looking pretty good.
You have the option to improve there on either your tank, your DPS, or your support. So a lot of options for Muffin, which I like.
Yeah. A lot of the players left, I think, would be really good subs here too. Seikana is like a perfect sub here for Toast. Pretty much the exact same DPS and support SR. So I could see whoever... I was thinking about whoever was drafting Toast should just draft Seikana too. Put up by EJ and the Ramshackled Roosters. Instantly jumps to 30k. I wonder who did that.
I also kind of like the Quails going.
There's the Quails, yep.
Yep, yep. I promise you I said that before it popped up on my screen.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Yeah. Up to 100k?
I like this for the Quails, but...
That fast, that's kind of crazy.
What is the Firestarboss cooking at?
Quails makes a lot of sense. Probably price checking, I'd say. The fact that it was sitting there. Oh no, he is going. Interesting.
Oh no, he's going. Oh, this is perfect for him. This is Seikana for him. Gets him at a Fu Seikana DPS line, Moon Topaz support line, and Firestarboss himself on the tank, sitting 10 under the SR cap. So, great pickup there, I think. Quails definitely want to be in on this too. So does Milo's team in the Zillas.
I wouldn't
Milo
be...
has money to work with, so he can just keep raising people. He might not even want these players. We don't even know.
I mean, I think he's a pretty good sub player too. Like, I don't know exactly if the SR would be over, but if you have like Ruben, Spartan, and Seikana, they're all about the same SR. I'm not sure if Seikana support would work well with that team either. You can run Milo, Seikana, support, was it Vind, tank, Met, DPS. I don't know. I think that might be over. I'm not 100% sure though.
I will have to double check that, but looking at Seikana, obviously a rookie this season, primarily wants to be a flex support, but also is very comfortable on the DPS as second role. So
yeah,
I could see that having a lot of value on Milo's team, a team that can be flexible with who plays DPS, flexible with who plays tank, even if Milo wants to step into the man.
Yeah, I mean, again, too, we're almost like, what, 60-70% done with the draft, and there it is. He goes to the Quails. I was going to say the Quails haven't picked someone up since Elko, like 3rd overall. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense there. Again, he's another NAU player, so the synergy there with Skycer, I'm sure is going to be there. I know Skycer was ranting and raving about how good Seikana is, so makes a lot of sense for him to go to the Quails. I think they're both happy to kind of get reunited there. Makes a lot of sense for both sides.
And that's your flex support carry, like, just off the board, you're happy now. You're good if
Yeah.
those guys are, because you have, I think, very amazing player in Elko and Seikana, who I think may slip under the radar
solid,
this season, from, especially
That's
from
solid.
what I heard, the inklings, the rumors that were coming into play.
Clockwise comes up.
Very good.
I wonder who's gonna bid on Clockwise. Another BPL player, I think. 3600 is another one of those like kind of mid-masters DPS. So I mean, a lot of good sub options. Makes a lot of sense in terms of flexibility. We do see EJ starting a little slow here. I think they usually have been. I don't know if the captains know right away who's getting put up. But so far, min bids coming out for Clockwise. That kind of surprising for me.
From what I've heard about Clockwise, like as a BPL player, like insane value. I was projecting
there's
him to
50k,
go for, like 150k, and the fact that I don't want to say it too early. The fact that he's probably not going to go for that much money though is insane.
Yeah.
I think.
Um,
It's insanely valued.
the
And that's why you
Kappa.
might even see like Firestarboss bidding on this, and Sonic Chronic bidding on this. They already have their DPS set, but you get this really nice sixth player, and it can enable some really good rotations for your team.
I know you've been doing the math here. I feel like the Kappa and the Sea Dragons wouldn't make sense to pick up clockwise. I guess you could sub clockwise in for Sky, and the SR would still work, but I think the Kappa, I don't know if they'd be able to make that work, would they?
Clockwise is above if you're having the assumed comp for the Kappas, but
Yeah.
that's only if you switch Toast with Raz on DPS, you can put in Clockwise on DPS, and it's a good sixth player to
Gotcha.
have there.
That
I
makes
think that's
sense.
the idea. I like Rect Cax is also getting in on this. Derek, I think, benefits a lot from Clockwise in that carry DPS role. There aren't many carry DPSs in the draft left, and Clockwise can be that person for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's starting to get up there. It started a little slow. I feel like going this late for that SR only on DPS, we're getting to the point where it's starting to make a little bit more sense, but the fact it was slowing down at 50k, I was so surprised. And it does go to Wrecked Cactus.
Yep, and now Wrecked Cactus has 4 players on team looking for the 5th, and with that 5th player, he's definitely going to be looking for the flex support role. He can get a 3.8k.
3.8?
4k flex support if he wants, I think.
4k flex support.
Yeah.
Oh, because he has cone.
Yeah. Because he has cone, right?
Interesting.
So now
I don't know.
He can start looking for Corey potentially.
Corey would be so good.
I think that's the cook here. But he may run into some trouble because I know Corey, definitely a hot commodity.
Yeah.
In a lot of drafts.
I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been put up already. A Paradox. I wonder who's gonna bid on Paradox here.
I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah.
I have a few assumptions.
50k. I mean Paradox for the SR does actually work really well with some of the teams, but I think this is one of the worst kept secrets in the league.
Do you want to be the one to break the news?
Yeah.
You want to be?
Well, then we'll wait. You never know. Wrecked Cactus is going in. Maybe Wrecked Cactus is cooking something.
I mean, when you got a flex support on the team already, getting the Insecana, the main support would be pretty helpful for the Quails.
I'm guessing 55k is from the Quails and 50k is from the Derek's team, the Owls. I think that's just a graphics bug. There it is, a 61. Oh, maybe not. Maybe someone else bid 50k.
Paradox, just SR wise and role wise, I don't think it works out that well in the Owls.
Yeah.
So I think this might just be
It's a price check. Yeah.
Skycer, make sure he doesn't have too much money.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine Skycer has 2 players left and has 180k left? That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Skycer drafting 6 players, right? I believe that's
it's a bug there. I'm 95% sure Skycer did not want a 7th player.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, apologies for that on that side.
And
I think that Paradox will go to Skycer. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm so surprised. I mean, 60k is about fair too. I was worried that if you didn't have someone like Derek bid it up, it was going to leave Skycer with a ton of money. But I mean, still 60k for Paradox, I don't think is bad at all.
Yep, and now you can target a.
Let's go! Yo, chat, I did it.
Chat, he did it. He's up. So Paninii, what do you think about yourself?
I think. So I got flexibility. I'm willing to play anything. I think for my SR, I think I'm a pretty good price. Booney is bidding it up. Currently looking at the teams right now, I think Booney would be a pretty good fit. I'm not sure in terms of the SR how much Sonic Ronic would work out here too, but I think Booney would be a really good fit. Having Neptune, having himself on tank, you kind of do need that SR sync, especially on support. Currently sitting now at about 70k. Booney only has 149k left. But Tommy Slat's also making a move here too. Tommy Slat also is going to need a SR sync here. So we'll see how it goes here too. I think either of these teams would make a lot of sense. I missed it when I was rotating through my screen. I think Booney has a little bit more
I'll double check that. Yeah, Booney has a little bit more. He has 19k more to spend, and both.
But he
both
still
teams
has.
are looking for 3 players left. Tommy Slat's really looking for somebody in that SR Syncs department.
Yeah.
And for Booney, I mean, he's just looking to round out the team. He has like 2 players left. You fit really well on Tommy's team on DPS, I think. Am I cooked? No, too high on DPS. You fit really well on Tommy's team. If you're like, swapping as support, like if you just give Firecarter the space to flex around, give Madrox the space to flex around,
goes.
give Tommy the space to flex around, and you're gonna go to the Purple Apes. What do you think
Let's
about
go.
that?
So I was doing my cooking before. I was trying to look at other teams and how likely they were to draft me. The Purple Apes, I think not only was one that I thought fit really well, but in terms of I had a good idea a couple of the players they were drafting, so I thought it made sense to go to that team. I was not expecting them to get Firecarter and to get Mardox though, so I'm kind of surprised by that. Hopefully, I haven't checked the SR with both of them in, but hopefully the SR still works.
I have some very, very good news for you, Mr.
Yeah.
Panini. Very, very good news for you. Tommy Slat tank, Sanemi Firecarter DPS, Meradox support, Panini support is 10 under.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Firecarter, yeah.
Additionally, I'm double checking something real quick, but
while you're talking, Flambeau Jambo is up. We haven't mentioned him multiple times throughout the draft. I feel like Jack would be a good fit. The Slouchers are kind of bidding it up, which is kind of surprising, but I think Jack would be a good fit and Wrecked Cactus would both be a good fit, so we'll see if they start going.
Booney jumps in there too, so does Charbotron, and looking at the teams, I think that Charbotron could get a little bit higher on their support.
Yeah. So what was the second one you were cooking for the Apes too?
So the second one, you switch Tommy and Firecarter and you're legal.
Oh,
like,
nice.
So it's good either way. But yeah, Flambeau, I think really, really value player. Really value player in my opinion.
The fact that he's 80k right now is kind of surprising. I was expecting him to go for more than me. I guess maybe the SR sync doesn't hit as hard with 2600 as it does with 2200 on support, but going to the Slouchers right now, I'm kind of surprised by that because they do have Frosty. Maybe they are looking for like maybe another SR sync, or they could rotate that. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Jack didn't go after him either. Maybe Jack's looking at another possible SR sync on support.
I'm also a little bit surprised that Jack's not in the conversation here. I also am confused about the Slouchers. I think it may end up going to the Slouchers here based off the...
Yeah, Flambeau does go to the Slouchers. It's sent already for 80k.
And I think that's interesting because you have 2 people who probably want to be on flex support. I mean, both are flexible. Are you swapping them out?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Like, you could do a 1-for-1 sub because they're both about the same SR, but I don't know exactly what he's cooking. Maybe he's trying to get another high SR DPS, or maybe get a high SR tank for to put AST design on DPS. Nuttier's coming out here. I have no idea what's going on with Nuttier. One of the higher SR supports too, but the fact that some of these teams are starting to get a little bit too high on support might kind of restrict where he's going. We do have Charbotron bidding it up.
Yeah, I think that this is a great pick.
The Floppas, I'm trying to think if they can run him on.
I will check that for you.
They probably could.
Team, they get a flat 3-5.
3-5?
Right?
Oh wow.
But the idea for the Floppas, on the other hand, is you put Riddle on tank.
I was gonna say Riddle would have to play tank in that.
Okay, you kind of want somebody to boost that DPS SR a little bit, but he's a great complementary support to somebody like Wigglehiggle. They have chemistry together. It's a solid overall pick if he goes to the Floppas as well. And now Booney getting into the conversation too, has his tanks, has his DPS set up, wants to go for a support here.
Yeah, I mean, Nuttier I think would make a lot. Part of it too is that Booney's only has 3 players, so he's probably just looking for players that he wants to play with now because he still doesn't have really that restriction of trying to find out like the last 1 or 2 player or the last 1 player to run out your team or your bench support you need. So I think he's just trying to like bid on players that he likes too. So I'm not sure exactly what would happen if he gets nuttier here and plays him on support, but I think that would be able to be something he addresses with his 5th and 6th pick.
And that's not even going to happen. Nuttier is going to go over to Charbitron's team, the West Farting Frogs, and Paninii. That is another completed team.
That's a solid team.
6th, but Chloe Tang, who has the experience with
Is it?
Charbitron.
Would it be Chloe Tank or would it be Chloe DPS?
Chloe Tank.
Then it would be Dante
Fan,
Fan.
DPS, Charbitron, Nuttier support.
That's pretty solid there. Yeah.
Looking good. Nuttier definitely worth the money here, and
Yeah.
I think that Charbitron went at the right time for Nuttier. If he went earlier, I think it'd be a bit expensive, but Charbitron's budgeting has looked pristine this draft. It's just who does she want for her 6th player, but she basically has a choice.
Yeah,
Everybody else,
that's true.
Like,
they're gonna run out of money.
Lad has like 2 people that he.
War.
Oh, love that person.
I think you're gonna go to Jack's team. I'm gonna predict that right now. I'm trying to think where else you would be going. Sonic Ronic needs a support, but I don't think he needs a sync. Wrecked Cactus already has Cone, so I don't think he needs a sync. Jack does. That's part of it too, is that Booney, I don't know what he's gonna build yet because he only has 3 players. I could see him going after you, but
yeah, and he can build with a high SR. I think that
Invictus
Jack
I think would be good.
Yeah,
I don't know what your
Jack and
Invictus
Booney are
ones
kind
are.
of looking for the same thing here. Like they're looking for like the same 2 players to combo together, and if it comes down to a bidding war between the 2, both are looking for 3 more players. Jack has a more rounded out roster.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a war of attrition on both fronts.
I think Jack's is a higher SR than Booney's too right now, so I think the sync would make be a little bit more valuable for Jack. Yeah, having a Kua and having Dire.
Thanks, Charbitron. Love you.
No.
Good shout out.
I lost the bet, guys. Oh no.
Yup. I mean, I at the end of the day, I kind of knew it, but now we're entering war of attrition for both teams here. This is going to be 2/3 of their budget here on me, and it's gonna round out a team. It's just when our players gonna
if Booney does get you, if Booney does get you, I wonder what he's gonna get with his last pick, because he needs a Corey would be so good. Corey would be like perfect there.
Yep. And I think that Jack can definitely look for like a similar style thing, but I am gonna go to the Fixtrio Foxians. Let's go.
Yep. I mean that makes sense. That's vibes right there.
It looks okay on paper right now, but Jack is still looking for 2 more players to like round out the SR of his team, because me, HV, and Jack are all fairly low relative to the SR.
That's true. 60k is not a lot to spend, but like I think we're gonna get to the point later on where you have certain players that just haven't been put up yet, that you can just kind of throw in there. Like Tanic B, I know, Allegro, Nort, all those players that I think could sub in for anyone on the Foxes, but Etc. is another great example. Etc. HV 1-for-1 would make a lot of sense.
I kind of like getting Etc. cheap here.
Like for his,
I think that a lot of players are gonna underrate them, but for his SR this season, really good.
Etc. had a really good season last season on the Corsairs. But he was on the sheet, he was 3,700, and then now he's 3,350. So I do think for his budget now, like he's a super good deal. So I think whoever ends up with him is gonna make a lot of it's gonna be like a good spot for him to go to. Firestar, I know, put in a couple bids for him. Have that synergy from the tardigrades. I know the apes kind of trying to make a push for him too. I think the apes would be done. Do they have 7 or do they have 6? They have 7.
Scary thing for Firestarboss is ETC just like a tiny bit too high for him with the composition he's running. I do kind of like that going to the apes a bit better, because the idea with the apes is you have the line switches that you can run on all fronts. But it is going to end up going to Firestarboss for 20k. ETC, I think, criminally underrated this draft.
That makes a lot of sense.
But Firestarboss still has to solve a problem, and that is he is currently over SR. What's his plan to... He's 20 over right now. What's his plan to offset that?
So he would need to drop about 100 SR on one of his starting players with a bench player. But then I don't know if that would really even accomplish anything because you'd still have to kind of move stuff around. I mean, cat would make sense too. Is maybe you do like a cat for I don't know. Invictus puts up cat. Again, wants to play Reinhardt, as we've all heard this season, but also does have that support, so you could put Paige in, get her like 1 or 2 maps on tank, then move her over to support. 2,800 support is a super good number to be at, so I think that's pretty solid right now, but doesn't seem like anyone wants to raise it. There's Booney jumps in with the 3K.
And I was actually looking at some potential teams that Booney could get. Having somebody, I specifically mentioned Kat and Ari, very good, because everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, they're just going to go to the end of the draft and they're going to go for cheap. But the flexibility that Booney can have being a tank player at that same SR is very good. And now Tommy's going to raise it a bit, testing the waters here, seeing if he can potentially get Cat at the sort of range. I think that is a bit troubling for Tommy's lines, potentially. He would have to flex out one of his 4 stars, but at this point in time, you have still 2 picks for Tommy and 3 picks for Booney. You can bid a lot around that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's price checking at this point either, because they're all min bids. It's still under 10K, so I don't know if people are just trying to price check or what, but.
Hey, and I think I think a lot of people are kind of criminally underrating the Paige Reinhardt.
Yeah, yeah.
Come to Pugs, you'll see what happens. Like, get Paige on Ryan,
it goes to Invictus.
Me on Diva, it's crazy. But nice pick by Invictus, I think.
This is one of the things the Aardvarks did last season. Because you get 10K per pick you do. So if you draft anyone that is under 10K, you just get free money. So you get paid $3 to draft Cat if you're Invictus. It's like the same thing at like you had Booney last season go for 4K, and it was you take Booney and then you get 6K because you drafted him.
And by the way, gamers, Poke, Tank, Invictus DPS, Nathan DPS, Rusty Goomba support, Cat support is legal.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I do think the only issue is that Cat was very adamant about wanting to play tank. So you would have to have a second lineup that does have. Yeah. Voyager, another NAU player coming up. I don't know where he's gonna go either.
I know where he's gonna go.
Yeah.
You know where he's gonna go, Paninii.
Currently, we have 30K on the Quails.
I think the Quails have a great spot for Voyager, but
I mean, the Zillas could be good too.
The Zillas go in here. You do have Ruben, which you can do a great line swap with.
That'd be like a good 1-for-1.
And Voyager are all around the same SR.
Yeah.
And Voyager for his SR is looking pretty good. I've heard some good rumors
I
in
agree.
The Aurora Esports space.
Bad news for Skycer. Milo could match Skycer's budget. What is it, like 150?
And still have
a lot of money left. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, if Milo really wants Voyager, he could just be going all in here, and they are currently doing mid bids because of course they are.
Oh, I love mid-bid gaming.
Yeah.
I think I just think that like there is a ton that goes into this because, you know, the Quail's looking for 2, Milo's looking for 2 left, right?
Yeah.
And for the Quails, this is a sort of like vital piece to their equation,
Yeah.
right? They need DPS to go with Elko, and Voyager is the perfect fit. Whereas Milo, he has some other options, you know, but I think Voyager might be his best option. Like, just he's looking at the players left, he sees Voyager. I think that is a value pick for Milo.
That's a really good SR for Milo.
I think they're gonna keep fighting for this for a bit, and I think that every inch of that fight is worth.
Okay, it has updated wrong. It does say the Zillas have Vin, but it is now swapped over to Voyager. I mean, I think part of it too, which is kind of rough for Skycer, is like, yeah, he could go all in to try to get Voyager, but if he does go all in, Skycer's not gonna have any money for his last player, so he is not gonna get Voyager, but he does have a lot more budget to work with. So,
and Voyager currently gets them right at the SR caps, like perfect sub out for Ruben.
Yeah.
Exactly what Milo is looking for. I think that Milo is kind of putting on like a masterclass of like how to
Strudel.
strategically draft certain players.
Strudel and Corey are two that I would be circling on my board right now. Two very high flex supports that have like just they're so good, fit in a lot of these teams here. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Sea Dragons go after him. I wouldn't be surprised to see like let me think. Wrecked Cactus. They are going to need another high SR support, so I could see both of those going after Corey and Strudel. The Kappa do have their full team, but they can definitely make some subs around if they get Strudel. Also, he is willing to play DPS. I know he has a pretty consistent, especially hit scale DPS.
By the way.
Yeah.
That would have been the perfect swap for Charbitron on support for Nuttier. You could just one
That's
to
true.
one that.
That's
but
true.
Now Muffin takes the lead, and the only people that can outbid are the Zillas. Don't they have a reason to? Owls could go in on it, but still need to draft up 2 players.
Don't know what the
And-
Kappas are cooking is my only issue. They have like 3 supports. So maybe they are putting Strudel in to flex for... I don't know.
You can easily get Strudel in and move Raz across the line. Is the thing.
That's-
They were
that's
under
true.
SR
That would
with
make
the
sense.
team that they had previously, and Strudel is just a great fit on that team. I think vibes wise, friendship wise, everything
Yeah,
there. So I think
yeah.
Muffin going for a team that is gonna have the synergy together and still has 88k left, looking at like basically in the exact same place that Charbitron's in, with a solid all-round team, you know?
Yeah. Scorpio, my goat, former Shrimpleton.
Shrimpleton.
Outside of Pokemon guy, he's one of the better syncs left too.
He is one of the only 2 syncs left.
And who am I missing?
Pokemon guy and Scorpio.
That's what I'm saying. It's like between the 2 of them, those are the last 2 left. And I know Booney has been trying to get an SR sync, so I could see him going quite a bit on Scorpio here. The Kappa also like trying to throw their hat in the ring here. Could make a lot of sense. I think he can sub 1-for-1 with MuffinLumps or something like that too, which wouldn't be bad. And then DPS wise, I think he's whatever lineups you have cooked with Raz on DPS, you could still cook with like do that.
Booney's gonna step up for Scorpio here, which means that the Kappa is out. The Sea Dragons may not feel comfortable. They're probably deciding about this right now because they still have 2 spots they need to fill. And Scorpio, all-around player, but probably is like most known for his DPS in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the Booney's team is a great placement for him.
Booney
because
makes a lot of
he
sense.
He gets to like flip around there, and especially when you have somebody like Neptune, who is just versatile. I think it's a good pairing getting somebody like Scorpio.
And yeah, it looks like we'll go to Booney's team. So they are left with another support they would need. And again, like you said earlier, I think Corey would be a good fit. But Booney is very quickly running out of money. He only has 69k left. I think he has 2 more players. So I don't even know if he'll be able to afford someone like Booney. But I guess we'll see.
We're getting into the part of the auction where it is a lot of, okay, let me look at every single other captain. Who has the most money? Who's going to dictate the pace? And who's going to steal the players that I really, really want to play with? And if you're looking at teams that have the potential to just step up and steal a player, you got Firestarboss, 1 player left, a lot of money to go for. You got Invictus, a lot of money, 2 players left. Skies are in sort of the same boat as Invictus there. That these people can really control the pace of how this auction goes. And same with Milo, I gotta give him the shout. He can just splurge if he wants to splurge, not splurge if he doesn't want to splurge. Tinic B, amazing on the DPS, been undervalued I think for season after season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some good money spent here, and even see maybe one of these teams that have a lot of money go all in for Tanic as their last player.
Yeah, like I think the biggest issue with him is availability, but when he has played in the past, like he's a really big, very vocal player. He's very flexible, plays a lot of those characters that are just consistently good. So I think like he's a pretty good fit here. Sharbotron goes all in, but I think that Sonic Chronic will have a slight advantage, and I think in terms of SR, I think Tannic B is like a perfect SR for him to work with here.
Yep, if you're looking at the current Sonic Chronic team, you have Tannic B, but you're still missing, like, I'm confused on like who's going into that support role. I mean, you can put Tannic B on tank, and but no, you can't. Like, you need another support, and like, is it gonna be Sky? Is my question, because Melon.
I know.
I don't know. Like, I don't think Melon is signed up there.
That's just really tricky. Let's.
Yeah. I think Sonic's entered this like weird balancing act where he has SR constraints, but he also has like role constraints too. And at least he doesn't have money constraints, because if he had all three, that's like game over.
But yeah, like, I think this would be a pretty good. This would make a lot of sense here.
Yep. And he is gonna go to the Sea Dragons, and that also puts the Sea Dragons in a good spot, around the same amount of money that Trevortron has and MuffinLumps has to get their 7th player. The 90k is a great place to be, because if at any point in time you want your 7th player, step up and say, I want this person, my hat's in the ring, and now 2 captains cannot outbid, for sure. And any other captain would have to send it in and take a risk.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what Sonic Chronic cooks though, because this is a very mid SR team, and if it's a mid SR team, the 6 players that are in that team need to be good. And I think that Dong Waggler, we just saw him in the chat here, might be another good player to go to somebody like this. Well, no, they need a support. Sonic just needs a support.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I could see him going to Jack and being 1-for-1 for HV too. I mean, Invictus 2, I mean, you could do DPS 1-for-1 sub with Rusty Goomba. But yeah, like, speaking of Dong Waggler, Fish, I know, has been on his team for like 3 seasons in a row. Fish is still on the board too.
Fish still being on the board is like, part of me thinks that like, if Fish like is like still on the board and everybody has their tank picks, he could go to Dirt Cheap for some team. But
That's
speaking
true.
of Dirt Cheap, Don Waggler, why is nobody bidding here? Like, I think this is a great flex DPS. This is like, okay, Invictus, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Invictus was expecting like for Cat to go for at least 20k and for Dong to at least go for like 50k, and he did all this budgeting and he did all this cooking, and now he realized, oh, Cat went for 7k, Dong went for 4k.
He's
gained
161k.
money, and now he has the ability to click the button at any time, and that button is, I get to draft any player
All
whenever
in.
I want to
Yeah.
for my 7th pick.
That's crazy. The law is coming up too. The law would make a lot of sense on some of these teams too. Another one of those players that's kind of that little awkward SR range that would kind of make a lot of teams' SRs work out perfectly. I'm not sure exactly what Sonic Chronic would be looking for in support, but I know Sonic is looking for another support. And then I think what else is looking for a support? The Owls are looking for a support, but I'm guessing they're probably going to want to go a little bit higher. But yeah, I mean, it looks like the Kappa are coming in too. The Kappa almost done with their draft. If they really want the law, they can just all in for the law here.
And it's between the Kappa and the Roosters here. Both, you know, I was going to say both on their last player, but EJ now doesn't have the option. So, it looks like
I could see
it's gonna
this.
go to the Kappa, and Muffin has completed his team.
Yeah, I mean, this is I think it's a pretty solid team. A lot of depth on it too. A lot of players that are very good, especially for their SR range. So I'm really excited to see what goes on with this. I might try to get Muffin in for an interview. I'm sure he'd be down to vibe here too.
I would love to hear from Muffin. Oh, hi Muffin. Dude, Muffin, how does it feel to complete the draft? First one done. Last time you were a captain, you were one of the, I think, the last ones to finish out. But this time, closing it out strong.
Yeah, Riddle really coached me. He was like, "Don't be afraid. Realize you're good, and don't be just relax." And that helped a lot. So yeah,
Yeah, I was talking to you earlier, and I was like, no, just don't get in your own head. You'll be okay.
yeah. Also, screw the 3500 SR cap. I had so many comps 10 SR
Oh
above.
yeah.
Actually, shambles.
Let's see.
Actually shambles. Now we got Corey up on the board. I'm
Oh, yeah.
expecting bids out here from Booney and Jack. And I think this is just going to be another one of those war of attrition. EJ is going to jump in for 30K to try and close out the team, but I think he's going to get outbid. And I think
Probably.
Booney versus Jack V2.
Yeah, and Booney only has 69K left for Corey, and is also gonna have to get a player after that. So, I mean, I think we are starting to. Booney is starting to run out of options here.
Booney outbid, and then Red Cactus jumps up as well. So now Booney has a question. Does he want to go all in? Yes, Booney does go all in. Onto Corey, onto the roommate for the synergy. And I'm looking at the team here. With Corey in, Booney's team, you got a 50
Nice
under
team
composition,
there.
but you have carry players in Neptune, in Zinth, in Corey. The fact that they got Scorpio for that low is like crazy, I
Yeah.
think. Or for
Booney
that value is
has
crazy.
been outbid.
Oh no, Booney, what the heck? What? Who did this? Wrecked Cactus, how could
Oh,
you?
Yak's coming up too.
Dude,
I
Yak
mean-
has been silent this entire draft, and now
So-
he's coming into the fray.
The fact that Corey is this cheap, I think he could easily be over a 100K player if he went earlier. But I mean, I think if I'm Yak right now, I just think that this is a great deal for Corey.
Yep, and the Owls, like, theoretically, they should, like, you know, be able to go for Corey here, but they still have 2 players to draft, and getting Corey puts them about 70 under the SR cap, so it's not like an optimal decision, but still, you think about the value you get for that SR, the experience you get for this SR. I know this season is, like, supposed to be his losing season, but I don't think that matters here. I think that Corey is a great steal for Yak's team.
Yeah, I think
And
that's gonna.
that's exactly where they're gonna go. Wait, can Corey play tank?
I think he set up all rolls like 3600. Yeah.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. And now they have a great base to build off of. They're still looking for, you know, maybe a bit of SR and a tank player, but they could always swap Flambeau over to tank. I know he's been somebody who very underrated on the tank, in my opinion. And now Witherin's gonna go up.
Yeah, Witherin I think would be for his SR too. He's another one of those players that like I think is a great steal for his SR.
Yeah. So, while we're waiting for the Witherin baits to go up, talk to me a little bit about your drafting strategy, Muffin, because I always love to hear like what the plan is going in. Did you get the team that you wanted? Were there any ups and downs along the way?
There was like a tiny bit, but most of the time it's just like trying to plan it all. You know, when you get like the classic, you're just on the calculator, calculator app, and then spamming buttons. You know.
Yup.
You're like, oh man, I can fit this much resource, you know. And I think I like my team. Yeah.
That's great to hear. As Witherin does go up to just go to Milo's team, and if you're looking at Milo's SR, you're looking at Witherin's SR, and you're looking at what that team is trying to do. I think this is a great team. It has like sort of the same vibes as a mid SR team, but with somebody like Vind who can lead the team and carry. The complement is great. The swaps are great. You 1-to-1 Milo for Witherin, the exact same. You 1-to-1 Voyager for Ruben, the exact same. If you want to switch Vind over to DPS, you can also make some really disgusting comps getting both Milo and Witherin in at the same time. There's a lot of potential here.
There's
As
Ari.
goes up next.
I think Ari makes a lot of sense too, especially on that tank. Like, could get a lot of value on some of these teams, especially when you get players like Tommy Slat, for example. I know Tommy Slat. I'm trying to think if there's any other. Booney would be a good. They're about the same SR, so you could sub in Ari on tank or on support even. Sonic is going after this. I think that does make a lot of sense too. Again, needs some of those support players, so I think that could fit really well with his team. Could run Melon Tank, yeah, and then Silvertall's Ari. I don't know if that would be. Oh, instantly goes to Sonic Ronic. I think all the players that probably would have been interested in bidding on Ari just dropped out. So
Yeah, or they're looking for 2 players, and now we have Sonic and
Sonic is done now too.
yeah, Sonic is done and Milo is done too. I forgot to give that call out.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we're getting done, getting finished here soon too. We have, I think, about 10 players left. 10 to 15 players left, I think.
I'm looking at the SR on this team and for Sonic, and it's very precarious. That's all
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now. It is. They have 2 people. They have like 3 people. Like
Asmodeus.
It's weird for
As-
Sonic. I'm gonna have to see what he cooks at post draft.
This guy's another one I could see him fitting in a lot of lineups here. Again, another player that just won a ring. The SR is really nice for a lot of these teams, so I could see a lot of subs working out. I do think that I don't know. They might be able to run. Booney's team might be able to run Neptune on support too if they get Asmodeus. Would kind of open their team up a little bit too.
I was just like looking at Asmodeus, and he just seemed like so good in a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
It feels like his SR,
It's
what
like
he's trying
a
to
good
play,
spot.
it fits well, and it fits a niche that like a lot of captains need here.
Yeah.
Firestar, if he wants this, he can just go all in. He's at the amount of players where he just like can go
This
all
would be
in.
like a great sub too for Etc. too. Like Etc. and Asmodeus are pretty close in terms of SR. So he would just kind of work really well. For some teams, I think he'd be a pretty good starter, but I also think like just the fact that his SR is just such a good spot here, you could get him and just not even have to worry about making your subs.
Asmodeus genuinely solves all the problems, I think, because if you put in Asmodeus for etc. and just run the line you'd expect,
Yeah.
it's perfect, right? Then you have the option to flex around Foost and Moon. You have the option for Fire himself to flex. There's a lot of stuff that this team can do. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that Firestar hasn't all in this. I'm wondering if he's like worried that Invictus is gonna like swoop in out of nowhere to take it, but he has.
Nope, there it goes.
effectively- Yeah, okay, there we go. And now
Nah,
Fire has completed his team as well.
He just wants to take some home with him. Get a little bit extra spending
Yeah.
money for the bank.
That's true. You kind of sometimes you just want to flex that too, and we are gonna get Fire.
I'm free.
Fire, you're in there. You're free.
I'm
What do you think
free
about the
at
draft,
last.
man?
Honestly, not too bad. I was really worried because like I didn't have a working comp until I got Asmo. So that was like my main concern. I got like really good deals on some of these players, I think.
Yeah.
And the funny part is like none of these guys were in my plans, like War knows.
I can
And-
vouch.
They were just so cheap that like Moon for 300k? Like, what are we
yeah.
out of our minds? Like, what are we doing?
I do really like the team you created. I think it does have like some of the same vibes of the teams that we're going for, but it approaches it in like a different style that I think still allows you to be flexible and gives you a lot of carry potential with that Moon pick, with that Foost pick. You got Championship Blood in Asmodeus. Overall, really good team. As Para goes up next.
I think this would fill in on a lot of teams very nicely here too. I know Jack is trying to make a push for Para. Para is another one of those that's slightly lower SR than HVSec, so that would be a good sub too. I know Para is like a super good support too. The only issue is that SR is gonna, like, some captains, you got to really keep an eye on your SR if you pick up Para here.
If Jack goes to 60k here, okay,
There it is.
goes. Okay, yeah, no, I think that this is honestly kind of better for Trevatron.
Yeah.
Because it just rounds out the team. Nobody's gonna outbid. If Jack got Para, it would be like the perfect complement to him. But now
This makes a
Trevatron
lot of sense.
with Para,
Yeah.
sub for Nuttier. But also, I think you could configure some other subs there. I'd have to
That's
take
true.
a look at it on paper. But a great core that
Yeah.
Trevatron built. And like, I've said this 3 times, I'll say it one more time. Amazing budgeting by Trevatron.
Yeah.
I think she got what she wanted in this draft.
That's like such a good lineup too. A lot of carry players, a lot of just really valuable, consistent players there to kind of round everything up. So I'm ecstatic with that if I'm Charbatron.
Yeah. And now, We got a chance.
Rue Lupinus.
Yeah, Rue's gonna go up here, but Fire, talk to me a bit about your draft. You said it was a bit stressful during. Are there any players that like slipped through your grasp that you kind of wish you bet more on, or are you in a good spot right now with your team? I guess.
Honestly, like the only 2 fumbles I think I made was I could have bid a little bit higher on Fedora, and then I think I shouldn't have put Yoda up so fast. That was really like the only 2 like big problems I had.
Yeah.
I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah, he wanted to sabotage Muffin more. That's his only his VOD review.
Oh, did he have Yoda in his plan?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I guess so.
And then I
Yep,
took him.
and if you don't know,
Yeah, I
if
put it up too early,
people
then I
go up
screwed
early,
Yoda.
it gets a bit risky because a lot of people are willing to, throw money when they don't have a complete team. Now,
Yes,
as we're getting to
sir.
the final players, we're gonna see the Quails go not all in, about half their budget, and actually much less than half their budget, and get Rue to round out a team. Let me get the actual numbers on this. I think this works out well, though.
Yeah,
I think that Rouge just slots into DPS for the.
I wish
Wales.
I had the captain sheet that shit like blacked out the players that were drafted because I have no idea who's left. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I know Harchar. Simply Dino. That's another really interesting one.
Yep, and it's all these like 3-6 to 3-8 supports that are going off the board late. I think that Rue has the possibility on the Quails to sub in for Sakina, sub in for DPS by himself. I think that those are like 2 really good swaps for the Quails. So
Yeah.
I'll shout it out again. I think a good pick and great budgeting from Skyser put himself in a great spot for the last player. Invictus now starts the bidding on Simply Dino and has the money to outbid anybody. So if this is the player that Invictus wants, which I think it is, he's going to be able to get it.
Yeah. Last player to round out the team, and he would still have like 90k left. I think this does make a lot of sense. It was like looking a little lighter. You would kind of have to put Rusty Goomba, I think, on support on a lot of the teams. So Simply Dino gives you a little bit more flexibility, being able to play that support there. So I think this does make quite a bit of sense with the Lancelot Lancers.
Yeah, and if you get...
They have Nathan too. I forgot they had Nathan on that team too. So that you get that synergy there.
It's just the flexibility. It's just the flexibility is awesome
Yeah.
on that team. And I think that the vibes are going to be really solid too. They have a lot of people that are willing to calm, very smart at the game, and very experienced players. And I think Invictus is somebody goes in, knows who he wants to draft, get those players happy. Great draft from Invictus, and I'm really looking forward to see what the Lancers do in the regular season.
Yeah. Let's see. Who's left? Allegro. Allegro's a good one too. Again, like he's another one of those players that I think could sub in and out for people perfectly. Looking at some of these players, like I know, I think HV might be a little bit too high. Zinth could sub out for Allegro. You have Casey Dunn could sub out for Allegro. Clockwise could sub out for Allegro. So I mean, I think a lot of these teams make sense. I personally I think it would be a pretty good fit for the Owls. They still, again, have 200k left. So I don't know what they're saving up for because I think that all the other captains are like running out of stuff that won't even be able to match them on. So the Owls could just bid 100k on their first player and 100k on their second player, and then they'd be done. Because, yeah, I mean, they could just do that. They'd get whoever they want left in the draft, and they just do that strat, so...
Still 14 players left to pick up in this draft, so
Yeah.
I think a lot
He goes
of
to
even though
EJ's
these
team.
teams are looking complete, but a lot of teams, yeah. a lot
EJ
of
has
teams
his
really
1 for
rounded
1.
out.
He can 1 for 1 Allegro for Pneumonia, so I think that does make a lot of sense.
And looking at the players left in the draft, I mean, I think that's like one of the best options for EJ. Allegro's value is good, an experienced player who can really do a lot. I also was looking at some of the comps with if you get EJ onto DPS and put Pneumonia on support or Allegro on support, I think you could dial up some pretty
Yeah.
crazy options.
BBQ.
Kind of what you're looking for.
BBQ 3600 on all rolls. He's another one of these like perfect players that can sub in and out for almost anyone. I could see him going to the Apes. I could see him going to the Owls to sub out for Clockwise or Sanami. Could see him going to the Sean Beltier to sub out for Zint there too. So yeah, I think there is a lot of flexibility here too. Shoreline Pie, he's the exact same SR as Shoreline Pie.
I think BBQ is gonna be somebody who's like, I don't know, kind of criminally underrated. Has been out of the scene for a while, but if anybody knows BBQ's game, it is a good game. He has a lot of competitive experience on Overwatch specifically, and he's somebody who, you know, put him on tank, put him on DPS, put him on support. I would feel confident with all three. And similar to like Rusty Goomba, I've seen him on all three. So I think him going to the Owls for that much money gives the Owls to basically the ability to like, just like press the I want this player button and execute.
Yeah. And then we're down to what, like 12 players left? Almost done here. I feel like the last few are going to go a lot faster. You're going to have players that'll just get put up by a team and just no one bids on them and they just go right away. Look at some of these other players left.
How cheaply some of you guys went.
I know.
They're really low SR players. I thought when I was like picking up Topaz, I was like 100K is going to be a steal.
Yeah.
And then everyone else was like lower. I was so shocked. I didn't realize it until later. I didn't bid on Topaz.
Flip Flop.
Oh my.
Super interesting one. I know Flip Flop's a great player, especially on that support, but I know she is also willing to play that DPS. Yak goes all in on Flip Flop. He needs a
2 players left,
DPS.
You know?
Yeah, he needs a DPS or a tank, unless he's planning on playing Flambo Jambo tank, which would be, or Quarry.
By the way,
could
this
play Quarry
is
tank.
Rect Cactus's like bid, so again, Rect Cactus might just say, "I want Flip Flop."
That's true. He gets his pick.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else has the budget to outbid, so I believe that Rect Cactus will be ending his draft here.
Yeah.
And ending it in a very good spot with Flip Flop.
It would have been really funny to see Skycer just put out 90K because he knows that Derek can just match it right away. But yeah, that is the end of his draft, and he gets 144K left over. Really solid team right there.
Yep, and I think that BBQ now, I was thinking they would slot in on that support role, but now I'm realizing Flip Flop is going to be on that support role most likely, and BBQ left as a swap for somebody like
Clockwise. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too when I saw them pick him up. He's the exact same SR as Clockwise, so that makes a lot of sense just to sub 1 for 1.
The interesting thing about this team, though, it is a significant bit under SR, 90 under. So definitely some value players here, but they're gonna have a lot of ground to make up here.
Yeah.
Now, Quails have their choice of basically whoever they want. They're gonna put in carry and
Cray, I think.
Cray. Oh, sorry. My apologies.
This I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to the Quails, but instantly, that actually might be Skycer raising it, just going all in.
Yeah,
and it would make a lot of sense. Yeah, it would make a lot of sense for that team. I think fits in really well with them. So that fits there pretty well. I think that's good.
By the way, Cray can sub for.
People left.
Oh, thank you for that math. Cray can sub for Rue, make the team. Cray can sub for Rue, or Cray can sub for Paradox, which is insane flexibility because right now with the team they had, they were sitting at 3. They were sitting 40 under the cap. With Cray going in, it's exactly 10 under the cap and 0 under the cap. Like perfect positions to have Cray. And now Jack gets to put somebody up. Has 2 players left. We're gonna see kind of a bidding war between people like Jack, Yak, Riddle, and Booney, all players who have 2 left. Tommy has 2 left. Wait, there are only 5 captains left in this draft.
Yeah, a lot of them have multiple players.
So let's look at this from an objective standpoint. Riddle has the most money, and then Booney's in 2nd, Yak's in 3rd, Jack's in 4th, and Tommy's in 5th here.
Has,
And at this
has
point in
Little spent
time-
any money since like the first like 3 rounds?
No.
He got wiggle and was like, yeah, this is good.
Packed it up and
He
went
made it
home.
wiggle.
Yeah, you spent a lot of money right early, and then now you just have to wait it out and hope you get something good at the end, right?
Yeah.
I mean, North would be pretty good. That would be good.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the.
Only, like,
And
the only high SR players I think that are left are Fish, Zane, and Zane. I think Fish and Zane.
yep.
Yeah.
Maverick and Capri Woven are left. They're both tank players, but that really sort of like slots in. You could go for both of them and have like a pretty good line. The interesting thing about this though is a lot of these captains, none of them have 1 left. All of them have 2 left right now, right? So now they're all saying, how can we raise people that we sort of like? What's
No,
up?
is Riddle actually needs 3?
No, he needs 2. The
No.
bottom column is he's a
Alright.
6-person team.
Alright.
Yep.
The little dashes mean 6.
Yeah.
I'm looking right now. I'm trying to see exactly who else is left. Fish is still on the board, so Fish is probably going to go for someone like super cheap here. Let's see who
I
else is
think
left.
yeah.
Harchar's left.
Yeah.
I could see Houchar going for like being one of the higher later players, I would say.
I wish I had a list, but right now off the top of my head, it's obviously Nort who's up now.
Oh, would you
Harchar,
like a list?
Fish. Oh, I'd love a list. You want, tell
Okay,
yeah.
I'll get the list out.
And feel free to read it out too, just so,
Well,
so the
it
audience.
isn't like
can
a list, but it's like all the remaining players. I'll just go through whichever ones are grayed out. So we got Nord, Fish, Happy
Yep, Nort just went to
Wolfen,
the Flabas, by the way. Sorry.
Maverick. And then we have Zenu Baba, Transflect, Olix, Houchar, and the GOAT, Pokemon Guy, and finally Ninja Drew.
Okay, so a lot of players in a various amounts of SR positions. I'm
Yeah.
thinking right now, if I'm these captains, I'm gaming it so other captains spend as much money on these players as possible. If there is a high SR player still left that I don't want, I'm putting that player up right now, flush the economy a bit, and hopefully be able to net two players.
I wouldn't actually put them up right now, because it's the part of the draft where if you do put up, say, a person you not particularly want, most of the time you're just going to, like, get it, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think a lot of these players are wanted by a lot of teams. I think that, like, for example, Booney's team, like, getting Maverick is like a very tempting tank swap for himself. But I'm assuming that also has benefit on Riddle's team. Somebody who needs the tank player right now has Capri Woven and Maverick as sort of like the 2 tanks left, and Fish as the 3rd option. And Riddle might look to complete the draft right now for himself.
Yeah, and then we get another Despot.
I know.
Yup.
Oh man, quite a long draft this time.
Yeah, so Nort going to Riddle is a good 1-for-1 for Shoreline Pie, and then getting Maverick on tank. I believe that Maverick is from Mankato, correct?
Mankato, yep.
Yep, that's somebody who has the competitive experience. It has, like, you know, been around the league for a while, and he will go to Riddle, and that will give a composition that puts them at 90 under the SR cap. So again, maybe not the most optimized team, but you're looking at value players like PJ and Shoreline, who Riddle invested a lot in early in the draft to ensure that he could get this exact team. And another player has finished. So we have 4 left standing.
And 3 of them need 2 players. Jack,
No,
Yak.
4 of them need 2 players, right?
Oh,
All
all
4.
4? And
Yep.
then Booney, yeah. Dang. Fish.
I think that Tommy Slack goes for this. I
Possibly.
think that this is.
I'm trying to
good
cook
pick
right
for
now.
Tommy.
I have one. I had 1 fish lineup. Let's
Dang.
see.
got the PDF.
There's the 20K.
Oh, yeah. I think it's that. Oh, we got a fight
Oh.
going.
I can't wait to hear how the Preds turn out, because I know you guys have been cooking a
Oh,
lot.
our Preds are looking pretty accurate. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
I mean,
Like,
Yo.
I'd say we probably got about half of them right.
Yeah.
Something like
Oh,
that.
the
Yeah.
f-
Tommy is out
Slouchers-
on fish.
Tommy's out. Everybody's out on fish, right? Or no, Booney's not, but
Except
I
for
don't-
no, it's Yak's probably gonna take it.
yeah.
I
Yak's just
think
gonna take it.
Fish would mess up the SR and Booney's team. So
This is kind of scary. Yak's team. Guys, how did we let them get a legal composition with?
with Corey, Yak, AST.
Oh wait, okay, it is kind of illegal.
It's over
in
SR.
a lot of these combinations, like you
I
can't.
mean, you have
do
Frosty
the-
Flambeau, Zainu Baba.
What comp
I-
work for Yak?
You would need to run probably
right.
Frosty and Flambeau Jambo support line, I would assume, and
yes,
then run
that's the
Corey
only way, and
on
then,
DPS or tank.
but SR wise, Corey on DPS and tank kind of shoots them too low. Right now, the best
Mm.
optimization is putting Fish on DPS. So
Oh.
Yak's definitely gonna want to look for somebody who fills in for fills in well with Corey.
Yeah.
It,
yeah.
it feels weird having Corey on this team. It feels like Corey is kind of like an odd man on this team, and they'll have to do some flexing, but that flexing can come from bringing Yak to support, which drops their SR by about 400. And Zaino Baba up for bid.
Yeah. I mean, it could make sense. So I was doing some cooking. If you take Zainu Baba, you would probably take Pokemon Guy on Tommy Slat's team. It is legal to run Fire Carter Tank, Pokemon Guy, Sanemi DPS, and Zainu Baba Marduk support. That is a legal
But
lineup.
yeah. For Tommy, you're looking for just really high SR players and really low SR players. Well, the
Yeah.
other teams, there's a bit more minutia to it.
Yeah. Zane does go to Booney, which I believe will now make Jack currently has the most SR to work with. Tommy Slat is second, and Booney is third. Those are the last three teams remaining. Actually, no, Yak has one player left too. I keep not seeing that.
Yep. Zainu Babu fits in very well onto Booney's team in that they got a great comp with Booney on tank.
Yeah.
It is a little bit under.
So.
It's a little bit under SR, and Scorpio and Zane might have role
Yeah.
conflicts.
Yeah,
But
fair.
Scorpio is a good hit scan, so probably a good flex DPS.
Transfleck gets put up. I think this is another guy that kind of works a lot with a lot of different lineups. I'm not sure exactly what the Foxians are looking at. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised to see the Foxians pick up Pokemon Guy. You get the people I always see playing Phasmophobia of Pokemon Guy, HV, Jack, and War.
Hi.
Do your Phasmophobia scrims after the match.
Yup. Alright, Translect. Yeah.
Oh man.
And again, this pick isn't good for Jack's. It isn't a good fit into Jack's team, so Jack's just not gonna go for it. So it's gonna be maybe an alleged bidding war between the remaining three, and I think it's probably gonna end up dropping to Yak here.
Maybe, I'm not
And
sure exactly.
That is great for SR, for Yak's purposes, I think, because getting Transflect in
Yeah.
allows them to open up this DPS slot and flex AST to tank if they want.
So I'm trying to think who wait, Muffin, we have 5 players left, right? Who's left? You have the sheet, right?
Welcome to. Who's
Pokemon
left? So
Gay.
we got Olex, which was
Olex.
that was a person I wanted to draft, but he got the classic 10 I saw.
Oh yeah,
We got
barely too high.
Palchan, we got Culper Woven. We have 0 supports remaining, and then we got Pokemon Guy and Drew.
Yup. And right now, Jack controls the budget, so he is able to say, I want this person or I don't want this person. Jack's gonna start off with Polix, his own pick here. And I don't know if anybody's gonna contest on this, so Jack just might be able to get his team here.
Yeah, I mean, then he'd get whoever he wants for the last pick too. So I would like to see some of the other captains like bid a little bit, because like if you give Jack 30K left versus if you give him 59K, it like potentially opens the door for like, you know, Tommy Slat to come in, because if Jack
Yeah.
has 59K for one player, he can just take whoever he wants. But if he has 30K, then Booney and Tommy Slat get to decide who they want.
Yep, and Jack is gonna go, and I think that's again like a great swap for me, in my opinion. Like, you get the SR flexibility when you have like 2 lower SR players, and you can just like switch them around, you know.
Yeah.
Would you say drafting Pokemon God would still also be okay for him?
I think that there is a better draft for Jack that will fit with his SR better, because if he drafts Pokemon Guy, he's basically saying he's gonna swap out Pokemon Guy, Pollux, and me, right?
Yeah.
And that's just like
Booney-
1-1-1 swaps.
Booney has
Booney's all
completed
in,
his draft,
and
Wait,
Booney's done.
Oh man.
and Booney has
got-
2 players left. He's done. Okay.
I think. Oh wait, no. Maybe he has. Oh no, he has. Yeah, he's
I
done.
think
he's
Ninja's
done.
Drew's his last one.
Yep. And that leaves Tommy Slat with 2 players left,
Yeah.
which basically means that there is
Yep.
Hardchar, Pokemon Guy, and Fish left.
No, Fish went.
Fish went.
Yep.
Oh, Fish. Oh, Fish went. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait, Hardchar, Pokemon Guy, and
Capri Wolven. There you go.
Capri Roven. So it's.
I could
I
see
do not
this.
think Jack's gonna bid on this, and
Yeah.
I think that Capri Roven's gonna go to Tommy.
I guess it's gonna be the
He can 1-for-1 sub himself out. Tommy can, I believe.
Yes, he can.
Yeah.
Again, a solid option to put on a team, and for Tommy, like high SR players, good.
Yeah.
High SR players win you the league. I think that his whole game plan is a really high SR player and then a really cheap player, and I do not think Jack is gonna contest that. I think that both these players are gonna get who they want on the last pick, because Jack here is probably gonna put up Hardchar because it fits better into his regime, and then Tommy Slat is gonna get Toon Crater, who fits amazingly into Tommy Slat's plans, amazingly,
Yeah, because then.
because they can basically run the God Squad with Toon Crater,
Yeah.
and just like they can run the God Squad with you, Panini, you know. And Hardchar again,
Yeah.
hasn't been talked about enough. I think is very good on DPS and very good on tank, and I think the fact that he's basically going for 0 here, but
Yeah.
Jack gonna put in all the money.
He would have been able to match it
think
anyways.
I think that sometimes at the end of the draft, a lot of teams end up unhappy. I think that both these teams are ending up happy.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a really good A team and a really good B team for the Apes. It is crazy that you can run Fire Carter, Tank, and Marduk support and still be. That's got to be a bug there.
You
There it
can.
is, Pokemon Guy. Yeah, if you have Pokemon Guy, I think it would be.
Oh,
Let me check. Let me
that's
check.
what he's gonna pick up.
I think it's 3450 if you run that.
Gosh.
Yeah, Fire Carter, Pokemon Guy, Sanemi, Zenu Baba, or not Zenu. That's another one I cooked. Fire Carter. I was sending him a lot of comps I was cooking up, and I
Pretty sure it
lost
also
all of them.
worked when they were both support too.
I think if you have Tommy Slat on support, it works.
No, like Marduk's Fire Carter support.
Oh,
But by the way,
With
how the
the-
Yeah,
comp
that's
support
true, that's
is
true.
Panini fits in on support if like Fire Carter
It's on
and
DPS.
Tommy are like DPS and tank.
Yeah.
Toon Crater, put him in anywhere. Composition works no matter what. I think that's like the best thing about this composition for Tommy is they have a lot of flexibility around Toon Crater. And then Capri Wolven goes in on DPS. You put Panini on support. You
Ooh.
then can have the choice of like who do you want in. You can sit Tommy, you can sit Sanemi, you can sit Fire Carter, you can sit Mad Rocks, but you have all those choices and all those compositions look good.
Yeah, Pokemon Guy DPS, and then Fire Carter Marduk support is 3480.
Yep.
So that is barely under. But yeah, I mean, I think looking at all of these teams, I feel like every single team had a really good draft. But yeah, I mean, any last words from you guys?
I mean, do we want to make some bold predictions here?
Sure.
Are we?
I would love to hear some.
Yeah. Same.
I'm just
Hang on, let me do
curious.
some looking. I'm not afraid to making predictions on my own team here.
Could be big.
Okay.
I also have a feeling that like after this draft, there's going to be a lot of trades going up in the chat.
I'm not sold on that. I think it's possible, but I'm not sold
Yeah.
on that. Because I think
At least when I left the call, what it sounded like is most people's teams were like 20 off the average.
Yeah.
Like their best
Yeah.
comp was just barely.
That's what
not
Muffin was
legal.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, Muffin. Well, Muffin was the one who brought it up, and then I heard maybe 5
Yeah.
other people agree. So-
Yeah. Cause like I had this comp, it was like, oh man, this comp's great, and then it was like 350, 510, and that happened like 4 times, and I'm like, cause I like checking beforehand to at least make sure there's one legal comp.
and you have a lot of teams that are under the cap, like kind of like Booney's team, Yak's team is like under/over, Sonic's is over, Riddle's is under, Jax is like under, and Rex Cactus is like under. So there could be a lot of flipping around between those teams specifically.
So yeah, I'm really curious how some of these teams are gonna end up. Who do you think?
Prediction.
Who do you think won the draft? Who had the best draft?
I think that this is tough, okay? Because you're making a bold prediction early.
Yeah.
I think that in terms of draft winners, I'm looking at Milo. I think he got like basically exactly what he wanted
Yeah.
and was able to alpha people off of other people. I think that Tommy had like an amazing draft because he got the basically the core 4 that he wanted and then built a good team around that core 4. Granted, for Tommy, I'm not like sold because I don't know exactly what Firecarter is willing to play, and I don't know what Madrock's willing to play, and I'm not sure what the flexibility is with Capri woven in. But I think that one looks good.
Oh, I can check that real quick. I had that
Yeah,
pulled up too.
Feel free to check that.
I think so. I think you would just the main lineup. I guess they'd be running. At least when I say main, the one that Tommy Slat would be in on would be Tommy Slat, Firecarter DPS, Sanami DPS, me and Mardock support. You can run that exact same thing and just sub in Capri Wolfen for Tommy Slat.
Okay.
That's like the
I think-
easiest one to think about, but
Okay. I think that the Lancers and Victus's team, they look really scary.
yeah.
I think that you basically got like some of the best value picks, and you also got some of the best like high SR picks. I think that one looks good.
I like Jack's team. I think Jack's team is pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm not commenting on it.
Like, you got Harchar that late. Like, I think Harchar is like a solid player to go that late. And then you have like Pollux makes a lot of comps work too. I think that's going to be a really good team. I think Charbatron also had a really good team. You get Allura, Cupcake, and Para are all like very high SR players that I could see having a big impact on that team. And then you also have a lot of those like consistent players to kind of round out the roster.
I agree. I think that Charbatron like won at drafting.
Yeah, yeah.
Like good like drafting strategy front to end. Same with and I'm not just saying this because these two are on call, like Fire and Muffin, you know, like
Yeah, that's
they didn't
true.
ever have like it didn't feel like you guys had any trouble with your drafts at any point in time, you know. I know Muffin, you were saying like, oh, we're always like 10 over, and Fire, I know that like it may not have been like exactly what was cooked, but it has the exact same like vibe of what was cooked, that it's gonna work the same way, you know. I think you got a great 6-man with 2 of like the best SR like 6 that you could get.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. Like, obviously, I said it wasn't like what I wanted, but like the pieces ended up like falling all into place except for like 1 or 2 people, and it was just like you just have people on your list who like you wouldn't mind picking up, and oh, I got him. Like, great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of fell into my hands. I feel bad like spending all this time with prep just to throw it all away when I got Moon.
I know, that's always how it goes.
Like, that's exactly what happened. And I ended up building like the whole Mankato team around me.
I know.
Oh yeah.
It's like the team I thought Invictus was going to draft just went to your team, basically.
Basically, I mean, like I drafted Moon, and then like I wanted Foost already. I wasn't even thinking about Moon. And then, like looking at Topaz, like what we were saying with the SR, I thought they were going to go for cheap. And I looked at Topaz's profile, and they said that they wanted to play with Moon. And I was like, okay, okay, I'll bid. Like if you want to play with them, hopefully you're gonna play better. You have synergy already.
There's no teams that I really think like definitely lost this draft right now. There's a lot of teams I do have like questions about like how the composition is gonna work out, because like Yak's team, I'm doing like 3D chess to figure out what the SRs are gonna be, what the team swaps are gonna be, because there's just so many options.
Booney's team too. I don't know.
Yeah, but people are gonna have to off-roll quite a bit in some of these comps.
Yep.
Which is it? I guess that's not really the end of the world. It's like, oh, your draft went so well, now you have to off-roll people.
But like, yeah, I mean, get good players, you're happy. And I think the main thing I want to say at the end of this draft, I don't think that anybody in like any of the captains were like really forced to draft anybody. You saw it with the way they were picking up players at the end of the draft. Like, I think that the final 3-4 teams bidding mostly got what they wanted, you know? Maybe they missed out on a couple players way early in the draft, but they were not disappointed by like the last 10 options that they had, and they were able to make some like fire team comps around that. Like the Zeno Baba Scorpio combination you can get. Pokemon guy onto the Purple Apes is just like insane team composition wise. And then sending Maverick and Nort to Funky Town is, I think, great for the vibes of that team, great for the energy of that team, and brings them a lot of competitive experience there. So a lot of people left happy here.
Yeah, a little insider scoop here. You were talking about like, we were pretty vocal in the chat, so there was like a pretty funny mess up that happened for the Oblivious Owls.
Okay.
Sully was doing the voting for it, and he had his vote on Corey, and then he looked away to DM someone and didn't see that Yak upped the price.
Oh.
And he accidentally let it go, and he was so sad. Because I mean, Corey for 75k is
It's insane.
pretty crazy.
I was wondering why the Owls didn't go on that.
Derek joined a couple minutes later, and Sully just like instantly started apologizing. He's like, I messed up. But I mean, at the end of the day, like they still both got really good comps. So.
And like, I think SR wise with BBQ and Flip Flop, those swaps are like great.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at that team and I'm like, this is one of the teams where I see the pieces going into play and how they want to run this team, and it has the leadership, it has the players to make a lot of stuff work. They invested in Koneko, they got a lot of, I think, under the radar DPS players specifically who can make some big impact.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. The fact that this has been 3.5 hours, I kind of want to go to bed now.
No, we need to keep. No, just kidding.
Yeah. We probably will have a podcast next weekend or something like that, and we'll discuss this a little bit more in depth, like who won, who lost. I'm sure. Like I know that Fire was saying something about trades. I don't know how many trades there are going to be, but usually they're the next day or two after the draft, depending on how the SRs and everything work. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I think that just about does it. My name is Panini. I'm signing off for myself, War, Muffin, and Firestarboss. So everyone, just make sure you have a safe night. Stay tuned for the rest of the season, and we'll see you next time. Thank you guys for watching.